Okay, I think we're live. I think we're here. I think we're doing it. Yay! Welcome, everybody. So glad to be with all of you. I'm Ocean Robbins, co-founder and CEO of Food Revolution Network, and I am so excited to welcome you to Healthy Habits That Stick, a live workshop to build a lifestyle you love in 2026. Now, before we dive in today, I want to tell you why this workshop means so much to me. On June 11th of 2025, my father, John Robbins, passed away. In the months since then, I've been asking myself, what did my dad's 40 years of teaching accomplish? I mean, he reached millions of people. He wrote best-selling books. He changed a lot of lives. But you know what question came in every single conversation he ever had in one form or another? Not, is this healthy, or where will I get my protein? It was, will I stick with this? People didn't always say that on the outside, but they were thinking it on the inside because people knew what to do. They had the information. They wanted to change. They wanted to eat more vegetables and less sugar and processed junk. They wanted to exercise more. They wanted to have more love in their lives. They knew it mattered, but they couldn't always sustain it. So over 3 decades working along with my dad, I learned something critically important. Information alone does not create transformation. What creates transformation is having the right support at the right time and the right strategies for continuity, even when, in fact, especially when things get hard. We need to make change simple enough that you can actually do it. We need to make it joyful enough that you want to keep doing it. And we need to make sure you're not doing it alone. And that is what today is all about. Not just teaching you what to eat or how to move, though you will get some great and powerful insights, but also showing you how to make healthy habits stick for real, for life. Now, before we go any further, I just want to give a little bit of context. Some of you are watching this on Zoom, and you'll see a comment section. You can go ahead and post in there why you're here, where you're from, what you're hoping to get out of this workshop. You'll see that in the Zoom chat. I think we have that on for everybody. I'll ask our team to make sure that it's on for everybody so that everybody else can post on there who's on Zoom. If you're joining us on the broadcast page, we have a little bug where the comment section doesn't seem to be working right now. So go ahead and keep refreshing if you want to post on there as we go along. Hopefully we'll get it working soon. But you can also come on over to Zoom if you want to post and engage. To be clear, the chat section is where we will invite folks to engage with each other. We will not be moderating the chat. There is also a Q&A box. As we go along, you may have some questions that pop up. In fact, I hope you will. And you can post those in the Q&A box in Zoom. There's just one comment section on the broadcast page. If we get that functional today, you can post in there and also refresh the comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Folks are chiming in on Zoom here from all over the world. Angie says hello from BC, Canada. Natalie, hello from Queen Creek, Arizona. Judy from Ontario, Canada. Harold from Vail, Colorado. Jane from Vancouver Island. Steen from Denmark. Shelley says, everything you just said. I know I need to eat healthy, but don't always choose the best. Looking forward to this information. We have a hello from Kim from Wisconsin. Elaine from Penticton, BC. Sandy from Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. Dr. Elizabeth Lloyd from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Lindsay from Bermuda. WFA Leadership from South Africa. Diane from New Orleans. Jerry from Silver Spring, Maryland. Greg from Birmingham, UK. Folks from all over the world, many different states and regions. Frida from Lebanon. Thank you all so much for being here. You know, I want you to feel it right now. You're part of a community of fellow human beings who care enough to eat differently, think differently, and learn how to live in a more healthy way. We live in a toxic food culture, but we are creating a new food culture in our own lives. We are creating, as I like to say, a food revolution. So take a moment right now to take a deep breath and let yourself land in your body in this moment. Really, just a pause for a moment and a deep breath all together here. Breathing deeply can calm the nervous system, it can center us, and it can bring us into a state of greater presence. You made time for yourself today. In a world where we're all so busy taking care of everyone else, you've chosen to carve out 3 hours to invest in your health. That's significant. It matters. And I want you to really acknowledge yourself for showing up right now. The people joining us today come from all walks of life. Some of you are already eating plant-based. Some of you are plant curious. Some of you just love learning some new things. Some of you are dealing with specific health challenges. Maybe you're in pain or fear right now. Some of you just want more energy and vitality. Wherever you are on your journey, we are sending you love and support and strength, and you belong here. This is what we call a big tent. We're not here to judge. We're not here to make you feel bad about your choices. We're here to meet you right where you are and help you take the next right step for you. So friends, it's 2026, and this is a brand new year. And while some people are talking about resolutions, today we're here to talk about something I think a lot better. Real systems, sustainable habits, and the support that helps you feel good about food and about life all year long. This is one of the main reasons we created our membership community, Whole Life Club, which we also call WLC. And it's why we wanted to host a special event to share a taste of Whole Life Club with our whole community. So today we're going to look at how healthy diet and lifestyle can fuel your energy, your joy, and your longevity. And we're going to explore how you can make healthy choices stick, even when life gets busy. We get to do this daily in Whole Life Club, and today is your chance to see how we do it. Our promise for you today is that you're going to walk away with powerful strategies and a success path to help you implement them. When you put healthy lifestyle choices into practice, like we'll be sharing today, your body will thank you for the rest of your life. So I would just want to say again, thank you for everybody who's already chiming in and commenting. Penny said, thank you for these educational opportunities. I use these for my registered dietitian CEUs. I live in Guatemala. I am so glad. Wonderful, Penny. Let's see. JD said hi from Quebec, Canada. Dora said hello from Brooklyn, New York. Kathy said, I'm here to continue honoring your father's legacy. I owe him my life. Thank you. Thank you. Kathy, I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for honoring his legacy. I know his spirit is smiling right now, knowing we're gathered. Karen said, good morning from Dallas. Happy to hear self-care is so important. And then Sharon said, what do you think of the new federal food guidelines? All right, go ahead and post that in the Q&A box, Sharon, and we'll get to that later. I'm also hearing, friends, for those of you on the broadcast page, that the comment section is now working, so you can post and engage there as well. Thrilled to have you all here. All right, so let's keep rolling. So we got some incredible faculty with us today. We're going to hear from Brenda Davis, one of the world's leading plant-based dietitians. Nichole Dandrea-Russert, an RDN who brings a wealth of expertise on everyday plant-powered living. And we're also going to hear from another one of our original Whole Life Club team members, Tracy Garrigan, who now leads FRN's plant-based coaching certificate. And Tracy's going to share more about the science of behavior change, so you can learn how to make your vision of a healthy and happy life a reality. So now a few quick housekeeping notes. The event is being recorded, so for anyone registered, you will receive the replay link afterward. If you're with us on Zoom, again, please direct questions for speakers to the Q&A box rather than the chat, so we can address them effectively. The chat is for ongoing engagement with fellow participants and will not be moderated. But it is a wonderful opportunity to share your takeaways and your aha moments and your breakthroughs. And for those of you participating on the broadcast page, again, you can see a comments refresh button there that you can use so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Please keep participating and engaging. This is a key way to build the community, feel the support, feel the love, and ground what you're learning in community with others. Now, some of you are going to want to take next steps with us. And the big next step we'll be talking about later is to join Whole Life Club, our ongoing membership community. We'll also tell you more about our plant-based coaching certificate, which is open for enrollment for just another 10 days. We'll dedicate some time at the end of today to go into both of these in more detail, so those of you who want to can make an informed choice about these opportunities. Now, just to be clear, nothing you hear today is medical or personal health advice. This is nutrition education and coaching. If you or someone you're working with has got a medical concern, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional. That said, you're going to learn a lot today. Now, I also want to make sure you grab your free workbook and mini recipe pack. This is our gift to you with simple recipes and reflection prompts to help you get the most out of today. So the link will be posted by our team in the chat now. If you're on Zoom and if you're on the that's if you're on Zoom. Now, if you're on the broadcast page, you'll find a link on the page. I encourage you to download it and use it to take notes here as we go along. Of course, if you prefer, you can also take notes with a good old-fashioned pen and paper or in a journal or a tablet or a phone. Either way, keep tracking what you're learning because I think you're going to find it incredibly valuable. Now, we are in for a powerful 3 hours together. We'll be going for about 3 hours in total. And let's dive in with our first faculty introduction, which is Nichole Dandrea-Russert. Now, Nichole is a registered dietitian nutritionist. She is the best-selling author of several books and co-author with me of Real Superfoods and Powered by Plants, and co-host with me of the annual Food Revolution Summit, which is the largest gathering of healthy food lovers on the planet. Nichole has also helped shape the Whole Life Club community by developing hundreds of mouth-watering plant-based recipes for our exclusive library, launching one of the community's most popular events in the kitchen, and continuing to support the broader FRN community with their ongoing work as part of the core faculty for the plant-based coaching certificate. Her topic today is everyday energy and joy, habits that support vitality and good mood. Now, how many of you have experienced that 2 p.m. crash? You probably know what I'm talking about. Whether you're cruising along in the morning and feeling pretty good, you may suddenly find around 2 p.m. that you kind of hit a wall. You might feel a craving for another cup of coffee, or maybe you're reaching for something sweet just to get through the afternoon. Nichole today is going to show you why that happens and what you can do about it. And she'll reveal specific foods and habits that fuel consistent energy throughout the day. Nichole, welcome.
Thank you, Ocean. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's so wonderful to be in this community with you and starting the new year off with some healthy habits. Okay, so today I'm really excited to talk about something that affects every single part of our lives, our energy and our mood. Because when our energy is steady and our mood is balanced, everything feels so much easier. It feels smoother, our decisions become easier, our connections feel deeper, we think more clearly, we move with more purpose. So everything really just feels aligned and we're in a flow. But for many of us, that sense of everyday vitality can sometimes feel like a challenge and feel a bit out of reach. Life gets in the way, life gets busy, so it's hard to maintain those habits. We wake up tired, we hit that afternoon slump, as Ocean mentioned. We might notice that our motivation fades as the day goes on. But here's the good news. Energy and mood are influenced by our everyday habits. The food that we eat, the way we move, how we rest, and even the small routines that shape our lives. When we have systems in place that include those healthy habits, just like brushing your teeth in the morning, or just like getting up and if you enjoy a morning tea or coffee, those habits are already in place. You don't have to think about them. They're a part of your routine. So it's the same thing for any habit that serves your best self. So when you put these systems in place, you don't have to think about them. They're already there. You don't have to wait for the motivation to come for them to happen. They're there for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to start by sharing a little presentation. So give me a moment to share. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. Hello, presenter view. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Okay. All righty. Sorry. Oh boy. Let me get back here for a moment. We want to start with the first one. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Everyday energy and joy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We are going to, let me minimize this so you guys can see the full screen here. We're going to talk about three different areas. First, nourishing your body for steady fuel. Next, we're going to talk about moving and breathing to support balance. You had just a little taste of that big breath that Ocean demonstrated, and I'm sure it felt so good. Next, we're going to create daily routines or talk about creating daily routines that align with how your body actually works. And because this is a workshop, I will invite you to reflect and write a few things in your workbook as we go, just so that you can start putting these things into action already. All right, so starting with nourish, using food as the foundation for energy. It's so important because what we eat is one of the most direct ways that we influence how we feel. It's so important what we put into our body at every meal. We have a choice to eat something that is going to fuel us and serve our best energy and mood. Our brains use a lot of that energy, about 20% of the body's total energy at rest. So when our meals cause big blood sugar swings, big spikes followed by big dips, the brain often feels it first. That's when we experience fatigue, irritability, or foggy thinking. We've all been there. But when we eat in a way that stabilizes our blood sugar and nourishes our cells, and our energy becomes steadier, our mood follows after that. So we just have consistent energy throughout the day. Our mood is more balanced, and a lot of that starts with food. So here are three plant-powered nutrition habits that you can start today that can make a really big difference in how you feel. So first, building meals for steady energy. That includes including some fiber, some protein, and some healthy fats in each meal. So you want a little bit of all three of those because fiber slows down digestion, healthy fats help you feel satisfied, and protein supports brain chemistry, those feel-good neurotransmitters that we want to feel throughout the day. And together, they help to keep your energy steady for hours. So having the three of them together is going to create a well-balanced meal that will sustain you throughout the day. Now, what does that look like? I have some options here on the screen, but of course, there are so many options given the abundance of plant-based foods that are high in protein. All plant-based foods are high in fiber, but starting with something like smoothies because they're easy and a lot of us enjoy them as either a breakfast or a snack, midday energy pick-me-up. Smoothies to incorporate fiber and protein. You may have leafy greens, maybe you have some fruit like some berries, some plant-based, unsweetened plant-based milk. And for the protein, you can add in nuts and seeds are great additions to smoothies. So walnuts, hemp seeds, some flax meal, and that'll give you good balance. Grain bowls are another great one we all love here at Food Revolution Network. When you have some beans ready to go, so they can either be prepared from fresh or canned beans in your cabinet, and when you have some whole grains ready to go, so extra leftover brown rice, or if you make quinoa for the week, having those two foundational things ready to go is going to set you up for success for a grain bowl. You've got protein and fiber in those, so it's a wonderful foundation. And then you want to add all the color. So all of your vegetables, a nice maybe tahini-based sauce or dressing. So this will create a nice balanced meal. So this is going to help to keep you fueled throughout the day in a steady way. So next, moving on to habit number 2, feeding your mitochondria, your body's energy makers. I was talking about, just mentioned adding vegetables to your grain bowls and adding leafy greens and berries to your smoothies. These foods, these colorful, vibrant foods are what going to help to keep you vibrant and also help to keep your cells vibrant and energized. So the mitochondria is your powerhouse. It's what creates your fuel throughout the day. The way that we protect our mitochondria so that they work most efficiently throughout the day, creating energy, what they're meant to do is by eating colorful foods because these colorful plant-based foods provide antioxidants that protect the mitochondria from cellular damage. So by filling your plate up with colorful foods like sweet potatoes, leafy greens, berries, turmeric, I mean, even spices count. And gram for gram, they pack a lot of antioxidants in each gram of every single spice. So get creative in the kitchen, add all the colors, thinking for this new year. So many of us think in the new year what we need to restrict in the new year, but instead flipping that script and thinking about what you can add. What colorful foods can you add to that meal that help your cells function at their best? Next, habit number 3, support the gut brain connection. So you're already doing this when you incorporate habit number 1, your steady energy, when you're incorporating plenty of fiber in your meal, because that fiber is going to help to feed your healthy gut bacteria. And that protein, healthy plant-based protein, incorporates the fiber as well as antioxidants. And healthy fats also support gut health. So you've already got that incorporated, but we're really just building that supporting the gut brain connection. And also with those colorful foods, they will also support, they act as fuel for the healthy bacteria in your gut. So you've probably heard that the gut influences mood, and it does. Research is pointing that the gut really does deeply influence your mood, as well as so many other aspects of your body. How your metabolism functions, your cholesterol levels, your gut can really have an impact. When you regularly eat a wide variety of foods, maybe beans one day, lentils the next day, or maybe you have a combination of beans and lentils in one dish, like a soup or a 4-bean soup, you have the opportunity to create diversity in your gut. So when you have diversity on your plate, you're also creating diversity in your gut. And this is so important to stabilize both energy and your mood. So we're gonna have a workbook moment right now. Pull out your workbooks or your pen and paper, whatever you're using, your journal, whatever you're using today. And I want you to think about one meal that left you feeling energized and balanced this week. What's one meal? It didn't leave you feeling tired or groggy. It left you feeling more vibrant and awake and more clear and energized. Is there one meal this week that you can recall that left you feeling that way? One common thing I often hear when folks start adding plants to their plates, and clients I see, the most common thing I hear, other than I'm sleeping better, is I feel lighter. I have more energy. That is by far the most immediate effect by adding some more plants to the plate. So I want you to think about that meal, hold on to that feeling that you're experiencing, and try to recreate that each time. Notice what foods were so special that made you feel that way, and try to do more of those things that make you feel that way. All right, so moving on to the next slide and the next little path, we are going to talk about moving and breathing. So this is one of the fastest paths to joy. We often think of exercise as something we should do. Exercise is something thought about, burning calories, and it does. And exercise is very important. Strength training and aerobic training, all very important. However, when we're talking about movement here and in this context, we are talking about creating energy, not expending energy. We want to, movement is one of the fastest ways to shift times when we're feeling sluggish or tired to creating more energy both in our body and our mind. So it might be as simple stepping outside if you've been in front of your computer for a while, or you're binge watching your favorite show, stepping outside for a minute and getting some fresh air and staring at a tree for just a couple of minutes. And that can help you feel revitalized right away. And maybe it's just walking around the block for 10 minutes. So simple things. And we're going to talk about that right now. But research shows that even just 10 minutes of light movement can boost your focus and improve your mood for several hours. So when your muscles contract, they release a signaling molecule. It's called myokine. These molecules travel throughout your body, and they help to reduce inflammation and support brain health. So when you take a walk, when you stretch, dance, you're gardening, you're not just moving your body, you're activating your body's natural chemistry for energy and to feel calm. So let's try something together. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Okay, let's try something together. We're going to practice a little bit of the breath that Ocean incorporated a moment ago, as well as just a very tiny movement, whether you're sitting or you're standing. And we're going to do this together, and as we feel a little shift. And this is something you can do every day. All right, so if you're sitting, just sit in your seat nice and tall. If you're standing, feeling your feet on the ground, again, nice and tall. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, feel free to close your eyes during this. If you feel balanced and stable, if you're going to fall over, keep them open. But if you do keep your eyes open, maybe find a point on the ground, not at the screen, but like on the ground, just a focal point while we're doing this exercise. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a moment and I just want you to feel what it feels like to be in your body. Just notice your breathing, your body, how you're feeling. Notice the silence. And then on an inhale, just pull your shoulders up and roll them back. Very simple movement, but we're moving. And one more time, inhale your shoulders up and roll them back. Keeping your shoulders back and down into your scapula and your spine nice and tall. Keeping your eyes closed if that's feeling comfortable to you, or keeping that focal point. And then just notice anywhere you're feeling tension. If it's in your jaw, try to unclench your jaw. We often hold tension between our eyebrows. If that's the space, try relaxing in between your eyebrows, allowing your feet to feel the ground beneath you. And then we're going to take a slow breath in. So take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top for just a moment. And then exhale, sighing it out through your mouth. And let your shoulders fall back and down. And then if you notice any tension, we're going to take a deep breath in through that area of tension. So again, a deep breath in. Inhale all the way up, expanding your chest. Hold for a second and allow that breath to go to the area you are feeling any tension. And as you exhale, release that tension and release your breath. And imagine that tension releasing from your body. One more, just deep inhale, exhale. Hold it for a second. Exhale with a sigh. Okay. How are you all feeling right now? Did you notice a shift? Just notice any shifts. This is something that you can do at any time. We're going to go back to the screen, back to sharing. Okay. Now, hopefully you felt that and you can incorporate that into your daily routine, but other ways that you can incorporate movement and some breath work into your daily routine is by simply taking a walk. After a meal is a wonderful time to take a walk. It doesn't have to be a power walk, but just that simple movement signals to your body that it's time to rest and digest. So taking a walk after a meal, 5 to 10 minutes, is super beneficial for your digestion, and also your physical energy and mental clarity. Standing and stretching in the afternoon, if you experience the afternoon slump Ocean mentioned, just getting up out of your seat. Again, walking outside into nature, or taking a short little walk, or playing with your dog, or getting outside and playing with your dog. So just getting some stimulation, those things, again, it's movement that provides energy. It revitalizes you. You can also just, choose anything that makes you smile and laugh, any movement, dancing. I love to dance when I clean, so no one's watching, and it's so energizing because there's music on and it just feels good to get up and move. And maybe it's just a 2-minute song that you dance to, your favorite song. So whatever brings you joy, implement that. Okay, we're going to move on into the next pillar here, routine, living in tune with your natural flow. So I mentioned systems earlier. There is so much power in routine. We are creatures of rhythm. Our bodies run on daily cycles that influence hormones, digestion, and mood. And when our routines are scattered, like staying up late or eating at irregular times, skipping movement throughout the day, our energy tends to fluctuate too. But when we create consistent routines, our bodies know exactly what to expect. As I mentioned, having those systems in place, we don't have to think about it. They're already there. And that predictability helps us conserve energy. The decision making is taking out of that moment. It helps us to improve focus and to rest more deeply. So here are 3 simple routine habits that can really make a big difference, and they really are simple. So habit number 1 is to get some morning sunlight. We often think of our sleep habits, which are very important. Our sleep hygiene is important, but we think of them as being nighttime habits. This one is in the morning, and getting some morning sunlight helps us sleep better at night. So it signals that our brain can boost serotonin. It signals when helps to regulate melatonin. And it doesn't have to be, if you're in an area where the sun is not accessible, it's a rainy day, just going to the window and getting some of that natural light at the window can be helpful. If you wake up way before the sun rises, there's also some tech devices out there, this natural light uh, uh, devices that you can put by your bed, and that is also very helpful. But whenever you can get natural light, this is a very helpful habit to get into, just to promote better sleep and get you energized for the day. Next, eating meals at consistent times. I mentioned that eating at erratic times or changing the meal times can kind of break our routines, but eating meals at consistent times can really help to support digestion. Our our digestion really depends on, or knows when a meal's coming, so it really helps it to make work more efficiently. So try to eat around the same times each day. Finish dinner at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime if you're able. Maybe having a small snack if you're someone who doesn't like to go to bed on an empty stomach, but a small snack, going back to the protein and fiber tip from earlier, having something with protein and fiber. So that could be, plant-based yogurt with some nuts and a little bit of fruit. It could be a chia pudding. So there's lots of options, but ultimately eating your largest meal 2 to 3 hours before bedtime is going to help you get a very sound sleep. And sleep, of course, has such a big impact on our energy and mood the very next day. And then finally, create an intentional wind down routine. So this doesn't have to be complicated, but just first think about your room and is it creating healthy sleep habits? So is it dark? Do you have the temperature cool enough so that you're sleeping soundly? Are there any, if you're in a big city, in an urban area, are there sounds that are waking you up? Maybe you sleep with a light sound machine that can kind of drown out those noises. So setting up those first, but then also preparing your body for rest. So it's so important to let your body know that it's time to rest. And this just really kind of activates your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, letting your body know that, okay, it's rest time. I'm going to produce melatonin, and it gets you just into that sleep mode. So maybe that's a cup of tea an hour before bedtime, soothing tea. So obviously herbal tea, non-caffeinated. So yeah, cutting the caffeine out earlier in the day could be another healthy habit. Maybe it is gentle yoga before bedtime. I love to do gentle yoga before bedtime. I find it so relaxing. Or maybe it's soothing music or reading a book, whatever that looks like for you. We're also different. So whatever that looks like for you, what helps to calm you is going to help you get very good restorative sleep. All right, so let's get into a workbook moment. Pull out your workbooks or your journals or your piece of paper and think about one part of your day that often feels chaotic or draining. So it's one small change to your routine that could bring you more steadiness and calm. So think about that, and that one small change can influence so many other aspects of your life. So it could be stepping outside first thing in the morning. It could be scheduling lunch at the same time, or maybe it's just setting aside 5 to 10 minutes before bedtime to prepare your body for rest. All right, next we are going to bring it all together. So when we combine nourishing foods, joyful movement, supportive routines, our bodies start to find their own rhythm and balance. Our energy is steady, our mood is enhanced, Focus becomes clearer, and everything else around that starts to fall into place. We start to move in our flow. We feel aligned and balanced. So as you move into the next week, I invite you to choose one nutrition habit, maybe adding more color to your plate, maybe adding a little bit of fiber. Maybe you just try one plant-based meal this week, or maybe you add one new plant-based food this week. It can be super small, something small, but that has a very big impact subtly, but it'll be a big impact. So every little habit that you create is going to have a big impact on your health. Maybe you implement one movement habit. Even just 2 minutes counts. So it could be, as I mentioned, stepping outside your door and getting into nature, looking at something green. That can be very stimulating for the mind. Taking a little walk. Again, whatever works for you and whatever brings you joy. And then maybe you incorporate one routine habit, like a calming morning or a calming evening ritual. This is really important. What I would love for you to notice after you establish just this one habit this week is to pay attention to how you feel. That feeling, when you implement something that makes you feel good, when you notice more energy, when you notice that your mood is enhanced, hold on to that feeling, because that feeling is what makes habits stick. You start to make choices based on the way you want to feel. And that is so important, because we know, so many of us know what to do. We know what to implement, but it can be really hard when there are other aspects of life that can influence us. But when we know what that feeling is, really feel it, embody it, just feel it throughout your entire body, and that sticks. That sticks, and that's what drives your choices moving forward. You deserve to feel vibrant, grounded, joyful, not just sometimes, but every single day. I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment, or actually, we're going to stop sharing right now. So I just want to thank you all for showing up here today, for showing up for yourselves, for being a part of this incredible community and this journey. And it's so important that we are all doing this together. We're all supportive in this together, so that we are creating a healthier, more impactful world and just radiating to communities around us. So yeah, thank you all. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ocean.
Yay. Thank you, Nichole. That was so beautiful. There's one of the things I just am appreciating about the tone of it is the kindness.
Mm.
Like I think that a lot of times we push ourselves. We even think that berating ourselves and criticizing ourselves is the best way to get our best performance. And there may be moments when honest self-critique and self-analysis can be a driver or a fuel, but all too often I think we wind up with parts of ourselves feeling afraid of that criticism, and then we're not able to be whole, and ultimately those parts will sabotage our best efforts. So there's something about just holding ourselves kindly, holding ourselves with care and love, that can be so powerful. We think of junk food often as if it's a treat and associate it with self-care. I'm going to give myself a treat and eat this thing that's going to increase my risk of cancer and heart disease and premature death, right? But what if we could actually um, learn to love ourselves, nourish ourselves with these practices in a way that creates a positive feedback loop? If we really associate it with self-love and self-care, then it becomes so much more gratifying and so much more fulfilling. And you didn't say any of that directly, but I think it was imbued in everything that you just told us. Because it's about witness, it's about kindness, it's about care and respect. And, when we bring that kind of love and attention to ourselves, I think it can be transformative. So I hope folks are listening and absorbing and thinking, well, what if this lands for me, right? Because you're going to hear a lot of ideas today. And what matters isn't the 75 that you don't take action on. It's the one or two or three that you do that give you traction that could literally change the course of your life. Another thing I want to say that I was just reflecting on hearing you talk was a lot of what you said felt simple, maybe to some folks even basic, but let's remember we live in a toxic food culture. We live in a world where it is considered normal to be overweight, to be chronically inflamed, and to die far sooner and far more miserably than is necessary. So in that context, You can do better than the norm and still have a long way to go. So I hope as you're learning today, for those of you who feel already pretty advanced, you're like, oh my gosh, I eat better than most of the people around me. Like the status quo should not be the bar for success, right? We can do so much better, and that's what we're learning today. That's why we call ourselves Food Revolution Network, right? Not food that's a little bit less bad network, because we want to help people have a fundamental revolution in what they're eating and how they're living and the results they're getting. Okay, so now let's go into some questions. We've got a number of them coming in. Uh, Sharon asks, "What do you think of the federal guidelines?" I guess I'll take this one, since it's a loaded topic, I suppose, for a lot of people. But let me answer that one. So, Sharon, thank you for asking, and I appreciate that the new dietary guidelines that came out in the United States yesterday call out the dangers of added sugars. I guess they came out the day before yesterday. Anyway, they call out the dangers of added sugars and ultra processed foods, and I think that is an important overdue step in the right direction. Unfortunately, the final guidelines that were published and came out from the HHS in the US ignored a lot of the science-based work that had been done by the Expert Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. That committee spent over 2 years rigorously reviewing the research with a staff of over 30 people backing up a team of experts. And the committee called for more beans, peas, and lentils, more fiber, and reduced emphasis on animal products. But almost all of what they did got left out completely. The final document instead calls for more protein without clearly specifying healthy sources. It urges Americans to include meat and full-fat dairy, even though they are the leading sources of saturated fat, which, by the way, the guidelines also say should be limited. They tell people to look for olive oil as a good source of essential fatty acids, when in fact olive oil has almost none of them. It has almost no omega-3s or omega-6s. And I'm also concerned by growing reports of industry influence. There was a press release from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine coming out yesterday, which stated that most of the authors behind the published guidelines had direct and strong ties to the meat or dairy industries. So I believe Americans deserve nutritional guidance that is grounded in science, that is free from industry bias, and that is aligned with the health of people and the planet. And unfortunately, I don't think these guidelines do a whole lot for any of that. The good news, if you want to call it that, is that historically people tend to ignore the dietary guidelines anyway. We shouldn't look to government to guide our nutrition choices. Sadly, it has been bought and sold to the highest bidder time and time again in every administration in my lifetime. But we do have an opportunity to learn and practice healthy food and lifestyle choices ourselves and reap incredible benefits. And that is why we're here today. Monica said, all info and discussion is appreciated. Thanks so much. Particular challenges and interests are eating plant-based with celiac disease and also navigating menopause. Any thoughts on those topics would be great. Nichole, would you like to share anything on with Morgan on celiac disease, plant-based diets, and also navigating menopause?
Yeah, thanks, Morgan, for asking about that. Yeah, we can have a whole webinar on the menopause topic. It's definitely something that a lot of us are experiencing and is being talked about a lot more, which is wonderful. Of course, celiac on top of that presents, some challenges maybe with just navigating some food choices, but back to what I was talking about earlier, it really holds true with menopause. And you can incorporate celiac friendly foods into this. So fiber and protein with every single meal. As we get older, we do need even more protein, and choosing plant-based protein is a really important aspect of that, just because it's already got the fiber built into it. So plants, when you think of protein, they come in a package. So plants come packaged with the fiber, the antioxidants that I mentioned. And these things help to keep inflammation at bay. They help to balance your hormones. They help to enhance your mood. So some of the common symptoms of menopause are hot flashes, irritability, mood changes, the lack of sleep at night, whether it's caused by hot flashes or we're just waking up. So food is such a foundation, and it presents such an opportunity to take agency over our health. Every decade really does this. So to kind of reframe it in your mind too, like, what is my body telling me? What do I need? And we may need to shift our everyday choices when we're entering into menopause. But protein and high fiber high fiber and protein meals, having some plant-based protein every meal, and then also for snacks. So limiting sugar, especially at night, limiting or no alcohol, staying hydrated, those all the things really apply and are especially important during this phase. But there are lots more tips. So keep the conversation going and just listen to your body. That's the most important thing is to listen to your body. But using the foundational steps that I talked about today, nature, for mood, all those things are going to help tremendously, Morgan.
I love it. Listen to your body. Such incredible wisdom. And here we are. We bring together experts from around the world, and the most important single thing we could say is anything that would help you attune to your own inner wisdom, your own inner knowing with curiosity and love. Now, that said, some of us, our taste buds have been hijacked, right? We don't actually even feel like we're really the author of our own desires, but there is a difference between desire that is born out of addiction to junk food and desire that is born out of self-love, self-care, and self-respect. So learn to listen to those different inner voices and follow the ones that mean you well. Last question. Amy said, I add flaxseed to my smoothies. Should I buy flax meal or grind the seeds?
Mm. Well, if you're adding flaxseed to your smoothie and it's grinding the flaxseed for you, then that's great. If you have a high-speed blender, then chances are that flaxseed is being ground to flax meal as it goes as you're blending your smoothie. And flaxseed, the benefit of flaxseed is that it's retaining the nutrition better because the seed is encapsulating all of the nutrition. So it'll retain the nutrition a little bit better versus buying ground flax meal that has been maybe sitting on the shelf for a while and it may be losing some of that nutrition because it's already ground and the nutrition is exposed to air. So buying whole flax seeds and then either grinding them yourself right as you're about to use them or adding them to your smoothie if they're being ground in the smoothie so it releases all the nutrition so that you benefit from it would be the best step.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Nichole, you've been amazing. For those who don't know, Nichole's created hundreds of the most popular recipes in the Whole Life Club library, and she hosts some of our action hours. She also teams up with me to bring you the Action of the Week videos. So you'll see a lot more of her wisdom in there if you join the club or if you're already part of it. Now we have Brenda Davis joining us really soon, which is going to be amazing. Now, before we jump into that, I just want to say one thing personal. When my mom would cook for our family growing up, and we're talking about a lot of kale, whole grains, things that were not exactly cool in the 1970s, she wasn't just feeding us. She was teaching us that food could be an act of love, that how we eat matters, that our bodies deserve to be nourished. And what Nichole just shared about making food joyful and colorful and satisfying, to me, it's carrying forward that same legacy. Because when healthy food feels like love, you don't have to force yourself. You just come home to it. Okay, let's talk about longevity now with Brenda Davis. Brenda is a registered dietitian. She's co-author of 12 books that have sold over 1 million copies. She's one of the most respected voices in plant-based nutrition worldwide. And she has dedicated her brilliant career to translating the science into guidance that helps people live longer and healthier lives. She is part of the core faculty of FRN's Plant-Based Coaching Certificate, and her topic today is the Longevity Blueprint, Nutrition and Lifestyle to Protect Your Health. Friends, please join me in welcoming Brenda Davis.
Thank you so much, Ocean. And thank you, Nichole, for that amazing presentation. It's always such an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I just do want to say one thing. Thank you, Ocean, for the beautiful introduction. I just finished my 14th book and just submitted it to our publisher, and it is on the topic of seniors. So it's called Plant Powered Seniors, and definitely is right in line with the presentation that I am sharing with you today. So I'm going to share my slides. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So the title of my presentation is The Longevity Blueprint, Nutrition and Lifestyle to Protect Your Health. And this is basically what we know. Chronic diseases account for about 74% of deaths globally. And in the United States specifically, nearly 95% of older adults have at least one chronic condition, and nearly 80% have two or more. And these conditions we know are largely preventable. I think this was put on the radar of many health professionals with the release of the European Post-Am study. And this is a study of over 23,000 individuals that examined 4 lifestyle factors. The first being a healthy diet, the second, never smoking, the third, getting regular physical activity, and the fourth, having a BMI under 30, in other words, not being obese. And those with all 4 healthy factors had an almost 80%, 78% lower risk of developing chronic diseases. And the risk was actually reduced by 93% for type 2 diabetes, 81% for myocardial infarction or heart attacks, 50% for stroke, and 36% for cancer. And so when we think about diet specifically, I think the evidence on diet was most beautifully summarized in this peer-reviewed article called "Can We Say What Diet Is Best for Health" by Dr. David Katz. And I quote, "A diet of minimally processed foods, close to nature, predominantly plants, is decisively associated with health promotion and disease prevention." And health authorities agree. If we look at guidelines of national governments, it sounds a bit like a broken record. In Brazil, eat foods mainly of plant origin. Canada, healthy eating patterns include mostly plant-based foods. China, cut meat consumption by 50%. Denmark, eat plant-rich, varied, and not too much. Estonia, eat plant-based, biologically diverse, local, and seasonal. Germany, choose mostly plant-based foods. The Netherlands, eat less meat and more plant-based foods. Qatar, emphasize a plant-based diet. Taiwan, plant-based diets are needed to reach the 2050 net zero target. The UK, eat more plant-based foods. And in fact, the scientific report of the 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee says, and I quote, "Encourage dietary patterns that emphasize plant-based foods such as plant-based proteins, whole grains, and vegetables. Substitution or replacement of meat with plant-based foods, such as plant-based proteins, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, soy, whole grains, or vegetables, is associated with favorable cardiovascular outcomes." Unfortunately, the actual 2025-2030 dietary guidelines don't completely reflect the guidance of the advisory committee, which to me is really tragic. And I think Ocean summarized our feelings about the guide, the new guide, just eloquently. So that's all I'll say about that right now. But of course, the acid test is really to look at the longest living, healthiest populations in the world, the places where there are more centenarians than anywhere else. And so I'm talking about the blue zones. And the people pictured here are 2 Okinawan centenarians. In other words, they're 100 years of age or more. And I think what's most noticeable about these pictures is they're not lying in a bed. They're both extremely physically active. And that, I think, for most of us is the goal. It's not about necessarily living a lot of years, but living a lot of years in good health. And if we look at lifestyle practices in the blue zones, this is a Venn diagram that looks specifically at 3 blue zones: Loma Linda, California; Okinawa, Japan; and Sardinia, Italy. And what you'll notice is there are some lifestyle practices that are rather unique to each blue zone, some that are shared by 2 or more blue zones, but there are actually 6 practices that are common to every blue zone we know of. And those are, they tend to have a strong family ties. They tend not to smoke. They're socially engaged. They do constant, moderate physical activity. And where diet is concerned, there are 2 things. One is they all eat plant-based diets. And the other is legumes are dietary staples. So why are plant-based diets protective? Well, whole food plant-based dietary patterns actually maximize protective dietary factors such as fiber, phytochemicals, antioxidants, pre and probiotics, whereas they minimize potentially harmful or pathogenic dietary factors like saturated fat, trans fatty acids, refined carbohydrates, the pro-inflammatory molecule in meat called New5GC, TMAO and its precursors, chemical contaminants, pro-oxidants, and endotoxins. And the bottom line is, honestly, we know enough. We know enough to eat plants, which will help us to reclaim our health. But of course, diet quality matters. Not all plant-based diets are created equal. The most healthful plant-based diets are those that are based on whole or minimally processed plant foods and are, of course, nutritionally adequate. Highly processed plant-based diets actually don't have an advantage over Western style diets in terms of longevity or disease risk reduction, although they may have advantages in terms of animal welfare and ecology or environmental sustainability. So I'd like to spend the rest of my time talking about 7 strategies for longevity and vitality. So strategy number 1 is to eat mostly whole and minimally processed plant foods and to minimize low nutrient ultra processed foods. So we want our diet to be very rich in whole fruits and vegetables. At least half your plate should come from fruits and vegetables. About a quarter up to a quarter of your plate as whole grains, preferably intact whole grains like quinoa or kamut berries or barley or buckwheat. Legumes and protein-rich choices should be at least a quarter of the plate. We want to make sure we're getting enough protein, iron, and zinc, and this helps us to do that. It doesn't have to be all in the form of bowls of beans, tofu, tempeh, peanut butter, and all sorts of foods that we can prepare like patties and loaves that are rich in legumes and other protein-rich foods like nuts and seeds. A handful of nuts and seeds, at least an ounce or 2 daily or more to provide the essential fatty acids and healthful fats in the diet. And then we also want to include generous amounts of herbs and spices because gram for gram, these are some of our most concentrated sources of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. So this is what the plant-based plate will look like. Half the plate fruits and vegetables, up to a quarter grains and starches, at least a quarter legumes, and then a section of nuts and seeds. And ensuring adequacy is about choosing high quality foods, a sufficient quantity of food, a wide variety of food, and reliable sources of nutrients that may be lacking in plant-based diets. And we call these the add-ons, and they're just to the upper right of the plate. And so we're talking about omega-3s, B12, iodine, and vitamin D, and making water our main beverage. We also want to minimize low nutrient ultra processed foods. And ultra processed, why do we want to do this? Well, ultra processed foods tend to work against us. They provide very few beneficial dietary components, but they tend to be very high in potentially harmful components like saturated fats and other unhealthy fats like trans fatty acids, refined carbohydrates, salt, food additives, chemical contaminants, and the products of high temperature cooking. And there are a number of studies, but I think the one that caught the attention of many health professionals, especially, is the 2024 Umbrella Review of 45 meta-analyses. And that review reported that UPFs, or ultra-processed foods, are directly linked to 32 harmful health effects, including an increased risk of mortality and all kinds or almost every chronic disease you can think of. UPFs are also physically addictive. They're the sort of the flavors concentrated in these foods are actually very dilute in nature. And when we combine them in a single food, it makes that food hyper palatable and it makes it really difficult to stop eating it. UPFs cause intense cravings. They evoke similar levels of dopamine in the brain as those that we see with nicotine and alcohol. And unfortunately, about 60% of the calories in the typical American diet are UPFs, with the highest quintile being over 80%. But I think it's important to acknowledge that not all foods that are classified as UPF are harmful. Some foods are actually beneficial, and although they're processed, the food ingredients are of high quality and they also can fill very important nutrition gaps. And examples of these are unsweetened fortified soy milk, for example, which comes with a lot of protein, calcium, vitamin D, and B12. And even some plant-based meat alternatives, which provide highly digestible plant protein, B12, iron, and zinc, for example. Strategy number 2 is to choose smart carbs and prioritize fiber density or fiber diversity. And so here, popular opinion suggests that carbohydrates are bad news and people should minimize our intake. I think this is a huge mistake because the healthiest foods on the planet actually get most of their calories from carbohydrates. Almost all plant foods are 50 to 90% of calories from carbohydrates. The only exception is nuts and seeds, which are lower. The healthfulness of carbohydrates, however, is determined by the quality of those carbohydrates. So high quality carbohydrates are those that are intrinsic to whole plant foods, legumes, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. These foods are loaded with the protective components like fiber, prebiotics, phytochemicals, and antioxidants. On the other hand, low quality carbohydrates are those that have been stripped of their protective components by food processing or refining before they're actually consumed. And this includes refined sugars like table sugars and syrups and sugar sweetened beverages, and refined starches like white flour products, white rice, and processed starchy vegetables like potato chips and corn puffs. Low quality carbohydrates increase our risk of overeating and obesity, metabolic associated fatty liver disease or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, insulin resistance and diabetes, and high triglycerides and heart disease. On the other hand, high quality carbohydrates are consistently protective. There was actually a meta-analysis of 45 studies on whole grains that reported for every 3 servings of whole grains, and that's about 3 ounces in total, reduced the risk of mortality from diabetes by 51%, reduced the risk of mortality from cardiovascular disease and respiratory disease by 22%, and reduced the risk of all-cause mortality by 17%, and total cancer by 15%. And high-quality carbohydrates, of course, are key sources of fiber. And fiber, we all know, promotes regularity, but it does so much more. It increases satiety, reduces cravings, reduces risk of colorectal cancer, reduces blood cholesterol levels, stabilizes blood sugar, reduces risk of GI disorders, enhances immune functions, lessens hormonal imbalances, and of course, helps to build and maintain a healthy gut microbiome, which affects everything from brain function to inflammation. And we need more fiber. American adults average 16 grams a day. Acceptable intakes are 14 grams per 1,000 calories, or about 38 grams for men, 25 for women. I think optimal intakes are closer to 40 to 60 grams a day. The greatest protection, of course, comes from eating a diversity of fiber-rich plant foods. Animal products have zero fiber. They don't contribute at all. Carbohydrate common sense. We want to make fiber-rich whole plant foods our primary sources of carbohydrates. We want to minimize refined carbohydrates, both starches and sugars, especially those in sugar-sweetened beverages. Strategy number 3 is to optimize protein quantity and quality. And, the first question we tend to get asked when we shift to a more plant-based diet is, where do you get your protein? So, can we really get enough protein just from plants? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Plants can provide ample protein at every single stage of life. And this is Nichole Delgado. He's been vegetarian since birth, vegan since 2015. He's never eaten meat in his life. And it looks like to me he's doing okay. Plant-based eaters can meet protein needs by ensuring a variety of protein-rich choices at each meal and eating sufficient calories. And several studies have shown that plant and animal protein sources are equally effective in promoting muscle hypertrophy or muscle gains when plant protein ingestion is sufficient. And what is required for muscle gains is about 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. And I should say here that seniors may need more protein as well, and looking at about 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per day. So when we compare, one of the main sources of protein in plant foods, which is legumes versus meat, it's really obvious why there's an advantage. So if we look at the food components like the fiber and phytochemicals and pre and probiotics and these kinds of things, they tend to be high or very high in legumes, and they're virtually absent from meat. When we look at those dietary factors that we're trying to minimize, like saturated fat and endotoxins and so forth, they tend to be either low or completely absent in legumes, whereas they tend to be moderate to high in meat. And this is very, very well backed up by peer-reviewed science. And there was actually an umbrella review, 2023 umbrella review of 40 meta-analyses that reported for every additional 3.5-ounce serving or 100-gram serving of red meat, type 2 diabetes risk increased by 17%, cardiovascular disease risk increased by 15%, hypertension by 14%, and stroke by 12%. And for every 1.75 ounce or 50-gram serving of processed meat, type 2 diabetes risk increased 37%, coronary heart disease 27%, stroke 17%, and all-cause mortality 15%. And we see the exact opposite with legumes and mortality. Again, a 2023 meta-analysis of 32 cohorts over 1 million participants reported a 6% drop in mortality for every 50 grams. That's about a 1/4 cup serving of cooked legumes. Another study of people 70 years of age or older reported a 7 to 8% reduction in mortality for every 20 gram or 2 tablespoons serving of cooked legumes. Based on this study, eating a cup of beans could reduce mortality by 60 to 68%. Strategy number 4 is to upgrade your fats. And the type and quality of fat matters. Trans fatty acids, saturated fats, and oxidized fats tend to be associated with adverse health outcomes, whereas unsaturated fats tend to reduce disease risk. The most healthful fats are poly and monounsaturated fats. They come predominantly from nutrient-dense whole plant foods. Concentrated fats and oils, on the other hand, can be healthful, but are more calorically dense, less nutrient dense, and don't have any fiber. So we want to moderate or limit our use depending on our caloric needs. The most healthful fats, the most harmful fats, trans fatty acids, saturated fat, oxidized or damaged fats. And these come mainly from animal foods, fried foods, fast foods, and processed foods. Trans fatty acids are industrially produced. There are two types, industrially produced trans fatty acids. And these were actually banned in the US and in many other countries. And in the US, it was banned in 2018. Manufacturers, however, can still label products trans-free if they have less than 0.5 grams per serving. So some manufacturers just shrink serving sizes so that they can, get under the radar for trans fats. And if you eat 4 or 5 servings, you're still at a significant risk in terms of trans fatty acid consumption. The other type of trans fats are called natural trans fats, and they're found in meat and dairy products. And the health impacts we used to think were lesser than with industrially produced, but there are studies that have shown that the impacts may actually be quite similar to those of industrially produced trans fatty acids. Saturated fat is associated with increased total mortality, hyperlipidemia, cardiovascular disease, some cancers, neurodegenerative diseases, inflammation, and visceral fat deposits. And for cardiovascular disease risk reduction, the American Heart Association actually recommends no more than 5 to 6% of calories from saturated fat, which is only 16 grams in a 2,000 calorie diet. And we get that much from many fast food meals. So it's really easy to get 16 grams in a Western style diet. The key sources are red meat, processed meat, whole milk, cheese, and other dairy products, tropical oils, and lard. Oxidized fats are fats that are formed when we expose especially oils, but other high fat foods to high temperatures like frying or grilling. This promotes the formation of harmful products of oxidation like aldehydes and hydroperoxides. And these compounds can damage DNA and increase cancer risk, so should also be minimized. Strategy number 5 is to maximize antioxidants and phytochemicals. And, phytochemicals are natural bioactive compounds in plants that protect health. And many function as antioxidants alongside micronutrients like vitamin C, E, and provitamin A carotenoids. They can reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, enhance gut microbiota, improve fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity. They can support immune function and protect against DNA damage. So to maximize our intake of these compounds, we want to eat a wide variety of plant foods. The greater our variety, the greater the variety of these. And gut health guidelines tell us to eat at least 30 different plant foods per week. You can do the math yourself, see where you're at. I calculated mine the other day, and I was at 58 in one day. So it's not difficult to get 30 in 1 week. We want to go for color. The richest sources of phytochemicals and antioxidants tend to be the most colorful. So you might want to choose purple over white onions, black over brown rice, dark over light greens, for example. And you want to eat the whole rainbow of vegetables and fruits. And if you're making a salad, try to get something from every part of the rainbow in color in that salad. You want 3 green, 2 orange yellow, 2 pink red, 1 purple blue, and 1 white beige. This is just a sort of ballpark, but this is a good place to aim for. Eat more raw foods, because raw foods contain enzymes that convert some phytochemicals into their bioactive metabolites or their active forms. For example, myrosinase in cruciferous vegetables helps to convert glucosinolates into isothiocyanates like sulforaphane, which induces enzymes that help our body to process and get rid of carcinogens. The allanase in allium vegetables helps to convert allan to its active form, allicin, as well. We want to start sprouting, because the phytochemical army poised to protect delicate new little plants that are sprouting just multiplies. So it often multiplies by 5 to 50 times. We want to pile on the herbs and spices, because again, these are some of our most concentrated sources. Drink antioxidant-rich teas like hibiscus tea and green matcha tea and so forth. And finally, strategy number 6, minimize dietary contaminants. The worst offenders are environmental contaminants and the products of high-temperature cooking. These things can increase the risk of chronic disease, including cancer, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, by increasing oxidative stress, fueling inflammation, disrupting hormones, damaging vital organs, damaging DNA in the central nervous system. And what we're talking about when we say environmental contaminants is pesticides in conventional produce, heavy metals like mercury in fish, and arsenic in rice, and cadmium in shellfish and organ meat, and persistent organic pollutants like PCBs, DDT, and dioxins in animal products, and microplastics in seafood and salt, and anything stored in plastic, but also things that we wouldn't even think of as being sources like chicken nuggets and root vegetables and so forth. Solutions here are to eat lower on the food chain, choose organic when you can, vary your grains, eat barley, quinoa, kamut, sorghum, farro, and other grains more often than rice. Limit processed rice-based foods such as rice crackers and cakes, and reduce arsenic in rice by boiling it using a higher amount of water to rice, boiling it more like pasta. Reduce your exposure to microplastics. Avoid using single-use plastics and plastic kitchen implements, and storing your food in glass containers can be helpful. And minimize your intake of foods that are rich in microplastics, especially seafoods and salts. Products of high temperature cooking. Here we're talking about things like heterocyclic amines, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, acrylamide, and advanced glycation end products. And heterocyclic amines are mainly found in meat that is cooked at high temperatures. It doesn't form in plants at all, even if they're cooked at high temperatures. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons form in anything that's black, and acrylamide is most concentrated in fried potato products, and advanced glycation end products are most concentrated in processed meats that are cooked. Solutions here: avoid charred or blackened foods, especially meat, poultry, or fish. Avoid deep fried foods, and use moist cooking methods like steaming, stewing, boiling water, sauteing. They have fewer products of oxidation. And our last strategy number 7, we want to target nutrition gaps with strategic supplements. No dietary pattern is perfect. Nutrition gaps exist among all dietary patterns, whether they're omnivorous or plant-based. And that's why for many decades, we've been fortifying foods to try to fill those nutrition gaps. Key gaps in plant-based diets are vitamin B12, vitamin D, iodine, and EPA and DHA. And vitamin B12 is a non-negotiable because it is not present in any measurable amounts in most plant foods. There may be some in a seaweed, but seaweed, when you dry it, tends to convert B12 to inactive analogs. So we really can't rely on plant foods for B12 unless they're fortified. B12 is essential for red blood cell production, brain health, DNA synthesis, and deficiency can lead to anemia, nerve damage, and cognitive decline. Our most reliable source is supplements. Other plant-based sources are B12 fortified foods. How much do we need? Well, most adults, about 1,000 micrograms 2 or 3 times a week. If you're over 65, many experts would say 500 micrograms daily. Vitamin D, we see global shortfalls for vitamin D, and vitamin D is vital for bone health, immunity, and cognitive function. And risk is higher in plant-based eaters because there are fewer plant sources than there are in omnivorous diet. So supplements often are needed to ensure adequate status, especially for those living in cooler climates or who have limited sun exposure. And the dose commonly recommended is 1 to 2,000 IUs per day. Iodine is a nutrient that we often overlook, but it's actually the #1 cause of preventable brain damage in the world. Iodine is also critical for thyroid function, and vegans are at increased risk of poor iodine status. The most reliable plant sources are iodized salt and appropriate amounts of certain seaweeds. Supplement dose is 150 micrograms per day, a little higher during pregnancy and lactation. EPA and DHA are biologically active omega-3s. The omega-3s in plant foods are less biologically active, alpha-linolenic acid particularly. Omega-3s are critical for brain, eye, and heart health. The conversion of ALA to EPA and DHA is pretty inefficient. So using microalgae-based EPA and DHA is a good idea. And basically fish get their omega-3s from microalgae. So we can culture them and avoid the risk of contamination and heavy metals and so forth. The supplement dose is 5 to 1,500 milligrams a day generally. Some people say 2 to 300, but I think to get to an omega-3 index of 8%, 5 to 1,500 is more in the ballpark. So, your diet is really key to achieving great health. Supplementation is just an effective strategy for optimizing all of the nutrients required. So we want to focus on filling gaps, not megadosing. So finally, the take-home message of this presentation is well-designed plant-based diets are the highest quality diets, and they're a powerful strategy for increasing health, longevity, and vitality. But we have to remember that health isn't just about what we eat. It's also about how we live. And so we need to prioritize restorative sleep, engage in regular physical activity, manage stress, avoid addiction, and stay socially connected. And with that, I'll say thank you very much, and I will stop my share.
Oh, Brenda, thank you. That was brilliant. So,
Oh, thank you.
so comprehensive, so thoughtful, and what a blessing that you have spent decades learning from and researching and curating the work of tens of thousands of researchers all around the planet who in turn have studied the lives and life experiences and habits of tens of millions of people in those studies. And now we all get to benefit from all of that curation in such a simple, clear, concise way. So thank you,
And
thank you, thank you.
thank you so much, Ocean.
We've got a lot of questions coming in from folks today. So we're going to take a few that have come in from the Q&A section in Zoom and also from the broadcast page. Let's see. Deblin asked, do we need to supplement a plant-based diet with collagen? I do
Uh,
supplement with B and D vitamins. Collagen.
yeah, no, I mean, you know, collagen, if you eat collagen, it's protein, it gets broken down to amino acids. It's not going to necessarily increase collagen production. What we need to increase collagen production is adequate protein. We need enough vitamin C. That tends not to be a problem for people on plant-based diets. We need enough zinc. We need enough copper. Those, we can get from legumes, nuts, and seeds. You want to have a lot of antioxidants, polyphenol-rich foods. You can do, if you want to do a supplement, you can do a collagen booster supplement, and that usually contains some amino acids, vitamin C, zinc, silica, biotin, those kinds of things, and that may be helpful. But generally, a healthy diet will do the trick.
Yeah, thank you. Linda asked, is unsweetened almond or coconut milk good too? I use the Silk brand. What are your favorite plant milks, Brenda?
Yeah, so my favorite plant milk is soy milk. And the reason I say that is because it is by far the most nutrient dense of all of the plant-based milks. It not only contains more protein, the protein is high quality, it tends to be higher in micronutrients as well than other plant-based milks. And the problem isn't that almonds aren't good or, coconut milk has even less nutritional value. But almond milk, cashew milk, these kinds of milks tend not to have very many nuts in them. So they're fairly dilute in nuts, and then they have calcium and vitamin D and B12 added. So you get those nutrients, but you don't get a lot of protein. And during childhood, I think it's important to get enough protein from the milks you're drinking. But as we get older, I'm a senior, so in my senior years, I am more conscious about my protein intake, and so I want my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner to each provide about 20 grams of protein. I'm not going to get there if I'm using almond milk. It makes it much easier to get there when I'm consuming soy milk. And some people say, well, isn't soy bad? No, no. Soy is actually protective. It's highly protective. It can protect against breast cancer, recurrence of breast cancer, death from breast cancer. It can reduce risk of prostate cancer. It can be, helpful. There's a lot of isoflavones that can be helpful for so many things in the body. And the evidence is over what we have truckloads of evidence showing advantages to consuming soy in the diet. So
Yes, thank you, Brenda. I almost want to be on a campaign here because there used to be a time when I was a kid when soy milk was the plant milk. And now you
yes.
see sometimes 10 different, there's almond and coconut and oat and rice and pea milk, which always sounds a little funny to me. And, all these different options. And then you don't even see soy milk sometimes. And I just want to
Yeah.
be on a campaign to be like, bring back soy, you know?
Yes.
But Linda, good job on the unsweetened, by the way, because a lot of the plant
Yes.
milks have a stunning amount of added sugars in them. You do not need that in your body. It doesn't do you any good. Just develop a taste for the unsweetened ones, and that will do your body loads of good. Um,
Yes, and can I say one more thing on the sugar thing? Because the original version, so original soy milk, for example, will have about the same amount of sugar as cow's milk. So cow's milk naturally contains lactose, and so it will contain, about the same amount of sugar. So going unsweetened will give you significantly less sugar than what you'd be getting from cow's milk.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are going to go with a plant milk that isn't soy for whatever reason, do look at the nutrition facts. Aim for one that's got some protein and go for lower saturated fat. So the trouble with coconut is that it's almost all the calories are coming from fat and a lot of it is saturated, but there's
Saturated.
really no protein in there. You know, with almonds, if it's got a significant amount of almonds, you will get some protein. But most of the almond milks, unfortunately, have a few almonds and a lot of coloring to make it white and flavoring and sweeteners because their almonds are expensive. But anyway, there are options out there if you can't do soy, but we're big fans, aren't we?
Yes, and can I just say one more thing?
Yeah,
One of the things you can do if you can't consume soy, or if, say, you're trying to keep your kids to 2 or 3 servings a day to not overdo, and you're using lots of tofu and tempeh and such, so you've decided to go with a different milk. One of the things I would suggest considering is to pour out a cup or two into a blender and mix in a significant amount of hemp seeds, maybe a quarter, maybe 2 tablespoons per cup or so. Blend it and then pour it back in the container, and you'll have a milk that's very similar to soy milk in terms of protein, but it will also provide some amazing omega-3s and other things. So that's another,
yeah.
it's a little more work though.
Thank you. We've got a few questions. I will say if you're concerned about GMOs or glyphosate exposure, or for a lot of other reasons, go organic with soy milk. It's a really smart idea. Um,
Mhm.
People asked about the almond cow. Yeah, if you're making your own homemade almond milks, you can get real almonds in there, right? It's a different nutritional profile. I'm just saying that a lot of the commercial almond milks go very light on the almonds. Almonds are great, but almond milk may or may not be really based on almonds necessarily. Kendra asked, and we'll want to go real quick through a few of these here. Is it okay to eat oatmeal with ground flaxseed, cinnamon, walnuts, and berries for breakfast every morning?
Sure.
Sounds like a good
It
breakfast to
sounds
me.
like a great breakfast to me. So,
Yeah.
so I'll tell you what my breakfast is. Just if you want it, just keep aiming higher and higher, higher. So what I do is I cook intact grains. So it might be oat groats, kamut berries, quinoa, whatever intact grains, barley, and then I combine and a little. This is going to sound weird, but I put in some small lentils as well to boost the protein and the fiber and everything else. And so that mixture, I make enough to last for about 5 days, 4 or 5 days. And then I take a little bit of that out into a bowl, a half a cup or a cup, however much you would need. I add in some chia pudding, a whole bunch of fruit. So, um, you know, berries, apples, bananas, whatever, peaches in the summertime, whatever is in season. And then on top, I have some dehydrated homemade granola, a seed mix with flax, chia, hemp, pumpkin, some Brazil nuts cut up in there. And that's, just sprinkled on top. And yeah, and I always put a little bit of, I stew blueberries or plums, and that goes on top as well. So, you can, and it's fast because everything's pre-prepared. So there's lots of things you can do to make your breakfast a lot of fun. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, real quick, Brenda, the title of your new book, Sharon wants to know. Tell us
Yes,
about that.
plant-powered seniors. And
Plant-powered seniors. Can people get it on Amazon right now?
you know what? I don't know. That's a good question.
All right, well,
I
I'm
have to
going to find out.
look.
Okay, yeah. If you can't right now, you will be able to soon. Plant-powered
Yeah,
seniors.
it's just gone to the publisher. We just finalized the cover. And so it's, in the editorial phases. So I'm guessing it'll be out early fall.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll be
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Certainly a deeply needed book. Yeah, looks like it's not out yet. You can get Plant-Powered Protein on Amazon and any of
Yes.
Brenda's other 13 books. Um, all right, let's see. Real quick. Actually, you know what? We can't go real quick. We should keep rolling because we've got a lot more wonderful things to bring to you. But we'll try to answer some of the Q&A questions in real time as folks are enjoying our next presenter. I'll be getting there, and I'm sure Rosie will be in there. And we'll also have one more Q&A section, actually maybe even two more Q&A sections later in the day. So keep them coming, friends. Thank you all so much for all the questions and engagement. And Brenda, again, thank you. That was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Friends, Brenda's also one of our expert faculty in Whole Life Club's monthly action hours. That's a place where every month you can ask questions and learn a lot from featured experts. She's also a core faculty member of our plant-based coaching certificate, which is an amazing next step for those of you who are interested in becoming leaders in this movement. We'll tell you more about both those programs later. Now, before we move on, I'll just say, Brenda, thank you again for joining us, and we wish you a blessed day. And friends, I want to invite you to take a moment to reflect because you've learned a lot today. Of course, our promise is that this is about healthy habits that stick. So we've been focusing so far on a lot of the healthy habits. Soon we're going to move into looking at how you can make them stick. So right now, I want to invite you to take about 30 seconds to jot down one thing you've learned today so far. Maybe an idea that's inspired you, a reminder you want to hold on to, or a small habit change you want to implement in your life. You can write it in your workbook, on a notepad. You can post your top takeaway in the chat on Zoom or in the comment section on the broadcast page. What is standing out to you? If you've already been taking notes, you might want to circle or bold one or two that feel especially important. We heard from Adrienne who said, homemade coconut pumpkin milk is my favorite, full of fat and protein. Linda said, sprouts have way more nutrition than the grown plant. Yes, so true. Well, sprouting and making your own homemade plant milks can be a wonderful, wonderful step. So go ahead and share if you want to. What is a takeaway, a habit you want to implement, something you've learned so far that you want to bring into your life, that you want to harvest, so to speak. And just reflect it. And if you're not in a spot where you can write, then just go ahead and reflect on it. Sometimes when I'm taking notes on things, I'll go back and I'll circle the ones that I want to make sure I remember. Breakfast at Brenda's, says Sharon. All right, we can all do that metaphorically. And Kathy said transitioning to more plant foods. Beautiful. All right. Let's see. Oh, one more. I started sprouting lentils. Quite delicious, said Jane. Movement isn't about burning energy. It's about creating it, said, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the name of it, Colin Dreyfgay, I suppose. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. All right, beautiful. Thank you all so much. So now, as we keep going here, I just want to say that sometimes that one takeaway can become the seed of a much, much bigger change. And what matters most is the simple few specific things you take out of today that you can implement, that you can do something with. That is what will change your life. So let's hold on to that sense of awareness, that sense of interest or draw towards whatever's next as we go forward. Now let's actually bring Nichole and Brenda back together. I hope I let Brenda know that we were complete, and then I just realized we still have a Q&A section to go, and she's still here. Hooray! I'm so glad. I wasn't tracking my moderator role very well now, was I? I'm so glad you didn't leave us. Okay, so now we're bringing back Nichole and Brenda, and we are going to go to more questions and answers. Oh my goodness, that's great. I somehow missed that we have this section right here. All right, great. I'm so happy because we were getting a lot of questions coming in. So let me share a few with you all that have come in. So we have a question. Do you have any info on foods for thyroid health? Thyroid health. Brenda, were you up for answering that one?
Well, I think, foods for thyroid health, I mean, probably the most important nutrients for thyroid health are iodine, selenium, zinc. And so, in terms of iodine, or people who are eating mainly plant-based or completely plant-based do tend to consume less iodine unless they're regularly consuming seaweed. But seaweed is something you have to be a little cautious with because it's so concentrated. So, for example, 1/16 of a teaspoon of kelp powder provides the RDA for iodine for an adult. So, eating a whole teaspoon, you'll be way over the upper limit. So we need to, if you are using seaweed as your primary source of iodine, you need to have an idea of, how much is safe and how much is typically contained in the seaweed you're consuming. And it's not quite as reliable as a supplement. In terms of, it's variable, the amounts in seaweeds. So that's a nutrient that if you don't have enough iodine, your thyroid function will be compromised. And so that we need to be making sure if we don't get enough in our diet, we're taking a supplement with iodine or iodine drops. And then the other nutrients, just eating a balanced diet with a variety of foods, including nuts and seeds, will help to ensure that you're getting adequate amounts of those nutrients. And, a lot of people are worried about goitrogens, and there's so many foods, soy and flax seeds, and, the list is pretty extensive. Cruciferous vegetables that contain goitrogens, but goitrogens tend not to be a concern unless your iodine intake is low. So usually you can eat a mixed diet if your iodine intake is adequate and not worry so much about goitrogens. Would you add anything to that, Nichole?
That was perfect. Thank you, Brenda. No, that was great. I would have, yep, I agree with all.
Faustine asks, what about people with hypothyroidism? I think that's pretty much what we just addressed, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I am going to just mark that one off. All right. Thank you. Beautiful. So then let's see. We had a question about rice crackers and rice cakes. If the ingredient list is fairly harmless, are these a good food?
Yeah.
I'm happy to jump in there for this one.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we gravitate towards these lower calorie foods because they advertise low calorie and they sound healthy because they're low calorie and they're a good snack. And they can be, absolutely be a lower calorie crunchy snack if you like to crunch, but they aren't nutrient dense as the crunchy snacks, say like crunchy chickpeas, if we were to bake chickpeas with our favorite seasonings, or some kale chips, something like that. If you're looking for a crunchy snack, or crackers, then I would opt for that. Or if you're looking for something with hummus, then we have flaxseed crackers on the website, for example. So something like that is going to provide more nutrition. These rice cakes are made, and puffed rice or any puffed grains are made by this really high pressure that takes all of the nutrients out of the food, but they are low calorie. And that's really the only benefit, but not high in nutrient density.
They
Would
can
you
be a
add?
good carrier. Like if you put peanut butter on there, then at least you're getting some
True.
peanut butter on a nice little
That's
crunchy
right.
base, Yeah.
And my main concerns about them are, as Nichole said, they're pretty nutritionally weak if they're eaten alone. But as Ocean said, if you add something of value, you could put avocado and tofu on top or something. But frequent use, especially in young children or during pregnancy, will increase your cumulative arsenic exposure, and that is something to consider. These highly processed rice products are or can be significant arsenic sources. And then the other thing is puffing of food makes their glycemic impact significantly more than if they haven't been puffed. They are easily broken down and absorbed into the bloodstream. So sometimes you look at the glycemic index of a rice cake, it's shocking. It's really high. And so, I mean, obviously, if you put peanut butter on top or something like that, that will help reduce the glycemic impact. But generally, those are just some considerations to, just to think about.
Okay, we've got lots of questions and only about 5 more minutes for this section, so I'll ask us, only one of us can answer a question. Rena asks, what are the recommendations again for eating the rainbow? Eating lots of colors, lots of colorful plant foods. Yeah. Let's see. Anonymous attendee said, to what extent is the damage to DNA and central nervous system or in organs as a result of long-standing chronic disease processes of many years reversible with dedicated dietary change, lifestyle, and other methods? Nichole.
Oh, I was pointing to Brenda because
Oh,
Brenda's done
okay.
a lot of
yeah,
research
I'm
on
happy to.
disease
Okay, great.
reversal.
Yes, please,
I feel
Brenda.
like, sorry.
I think the evidence is actually pretty strong. And even if you look at Dean Ornish's research, we think about the research on telomeres and on DNA and how, how rapidly lifestyle changes change how genes are turned on and off. And so the answer is absolutely yes, we can make tremendous changes in very short order by improving our diet and our lifestyles. It's nice to see that evidence-based articles support this, or evidence supports this very, very strongly.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. One of our participants asked, if you're a seafood eater, should you lessen the omega-3 supplement?
I mean, you probably don't need the amount. Their research, as Brenda mentioned, the research is showing that we probably need, like fully plant-based eaters probably need more than what's been traditionally recommended, up to 1,000 milligrams a day. But if you're eating seafood and getting the recommended amount daily, you most likely, and it's a high omega-3 type seafood like salmon or other type seafood, then you may not need that additional supplement. But also, like the plant-based options are omega-3s, as Brenda mentioned earlier, flaxseed, walnuts. There's so many hemp seeds that got omega-3s. Those, the type of omega-3 in those is not converted as efficiently to the type of omega-3s that we need for our eyes and our brain health. So it is important to take an algae-based omega-3 supplement.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question. How about amino acids for vegans?
Amino acids, I guess we're talking about protein, the amino acids in proteins. I'm not sure what the question is, but I will say that, all amino acids are actually produced in plants. So there's no amino acids that you can't get from plants. It's actually where they come from. So it's not we can get every essential amino acid when we eat a reasonable variety of plants. And one of the things that I think is really important is that we also need to include in the mix some more concentrated protein sources like legumes and seeds, especially, both of those. Soy products are wonderful if you can include them. You don't have to, but they make things a lot easier. One of the big concerns about plant-based diets and plant-based proteins is that they're less digestible than animal-based proteins, and digestibility, so that can reduce their so-called quality. I would take exception with the definition of quality by many people, because I think quality should also be a function of how it impacts your risk of chronic disease. But we need to recognize that we talk about processing as though it's always a bad thing, but when we process soy to make soy milk or tofu, we are making the amino acids in those foods much more digestible at a level that's comparable to that of meat. So the thing in plants that reduces digestibility is fiber. So when we, do things to reduce particle size, like blending, we are actually making the protein in that food much more digestible.
Thank you. We have a couple questions about olive oil and avocado oil. Maybe those should be our last ones. Mary asked, why do you discourage olive oil and avocado oil? I thought they were good choices.
I can speak to this because I've created a lot of oil-free recipes for us, and I know that it is a concern for some people who are looking to reverse chronic diseases like heart disease, and it's a protocol that some experts do recommend is no oil and only getting your essential fats or any types of fats from whole foods. So the whole avocado versus avocado oil is going to have all of the fiber and vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals that we need for our entire body to thrive versus just the oil, which is just the fat. So the oil from a food is just that one component of the food rather than eating the whole food. That said, if you're eating well and you want to add a little bit of olive oil, healthy olive oil to a salad, extra virgin olive oil, or you're cooking with a little bit of avocado oil, those are, mostly monounsaturated, and they can be beneficial, especially if they're helping to be a carrier for vegetables. And maybe you enjoy roasting vegetables, but you don't like them with a little bit of oil on them. And if that's a way for you to get more vegetables in, then a little bit is okay. But it really is individualized, and a lot of people advocate for oil-free if it is for health reasons, or if they're watching weight. Of course, is extra calories as well. So there are 9 calories per gram of oil, and if you're adding oil, it's not adding a whole lot of nutrition other than those calories. So that may be another concern for people. Brenda, do you have anything? Oh, I know we're stopping. Are we? I wanted to. I feel like I have something to add.
I'll just say someone asked, why did I hear Ocean discourage olive oil? No, you didn't. I think that, as mentioned, there's nuance to everything. As oils go, I'm going to say flaxseed oil is for the win, but you can't cook with it. And it's got a strong taste. But yeah, olive oil, avocado oil, these are among the least problematic and for some people potentially beneficial oils. Deep frying is never a good thing, no matter what oil you're basing it on. But in general, yeah, I think adding some olive or avocado oil is not going to do any damage. There is some research showing that if you're eating a super, super healthy diet and getting good healthy fats, you may not get as much benefit with more olive oil. But that doesn't mean you should never eat it. And it's also compared to what, right? If you're using it to replace less healthy oils, like corn oil or even sunflower seed oil or safflower oil, or certainly any of the palm oil or any of the saturated oils, like good on you. Okay, we're gonna need to wrap the Q&A section here, friends. Our team will keep responding as we can into the Q&A chat comments as the Q&A comments in written form, I should say. And we're going to keep rolling because we've got a lot more we want to share with you, including help you land the plane here from all that you're learning in your life. So now I want to invite you, as we let Brenda and Nichole go, with huge gratitude for your wonderful time with us today. I want to invite you all now to just take a moment to let this land again. What are you learning? What does it mean in your life? And now let's take a breath together so we can really take this in and absorb it. So inhale deeply. And exhale. This is part of how we integrate. This is part of how we tell our nervous system, this is a time for learning and connection. You don't have to put out. You can also absorb and digest. So again, one more time. Thank you. We're real and embodied humans. And there's a room here in this workshop that we're all in together. A space where your body and your mind and your spirit and your heart are all welcome. Now, a quick note. We know some of you may need to leave before the end. If that's you, I want to make sure you know that today we're offering a special $1 trial of Whole Life Club. We'll talk about it a little more later in the workshop, but if you do by any chance have to leave early, I just want to make sure you don't miss this. The link should be posted in the chat here, and it's on the broadcast page for those of you who are watching on the broadcast page. If you do need to go at any point before we finish, please make sure you don't miss this incredible opportunity. That said, I hope you'll stay right here to the end, because Tracy's next session on behavior change is going to blow your mind. It's the science behind why everything we've learned today can actually stick in your life for real lasting results. Okay, now we've learned a lot, right? From Nichole about how to fuel your energy and your joy, from Brenda about how to protect your longevity, from both of them about nutrition. And here's what I want to ask you. How many times in your life have you learned something powerful, maybe at a workshop or from a book or from a documentary? You were inspired, you were motivated, you knew what to do, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, you found yourself right back where you started. If this has ever happened to you, it's not your fault. And it's not because you lack willpower or discipline. It's because you didn't know the science of how change actually works. And that is what Tracy Garrigan is about to teach us now. Tracy has spent over a decade studying behavior change through thousands of hours of coaching, training, and real-world practice. After watching thousands of members go through Whole Life Club, it became really clear that this was the real unmet need. People weren't struggling because they lacked information. They were struggling because no one had ever taught them how to change in a real and lasting and a sustainable way. That insight became the foundation of our plant-based coaching certificate, where Tracy serves as founding director and where she is now training another 200 or more people every year in these foundations so they can become plant-based coaches and inspire and support other people. Everything we've covered today, Nichole's wisdom on energy, Brenda's longevity blueprint, is powerful information. One of the things my dad learned over his 35 years of leadership in this movement, information alone does not create transformation. So the real question now is, how do we actually make change happen? And why do some people succeed while others struggle? All right. Well, now, Tracy, I'm going to invite you to come aboard here because I think we've prepped you well. Tracy is brilliant. Take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Ocean. It's a real privilege to be here with you today. And thank you, Nichole and Brenda. You always inspire me. The head is spinning with new things to do. And this is a great time to talk about how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation and hop right in. All right. Eat more plants, move our bodies, sleep 8 hours, breathe, meditate, drink water. You've probably heard this all 100 times, and making changes can feel like climbing a mountain. But if information alone created change, we'd all be glowing examples of perfect habits by now. So the real question is not knowing what to do, it's, um, how to do it, right? Why is it so hard to do the things I already know are good for me is a really major question. And this gap between knowing and doing is where the science of behavior change lives. Most people don't struggle because they don't know what's healthy. They struggle because life is loud and stress is real and habits are hard. And many of us internalize our frustrations around this. But knowing just a little bit more about how change works can offer some hope. The environment around us often pushes us towards the choices that we're trying to avoid. And we all have very real, what are called social determinants of health. These are issues of access, resources, and even relationships that drive our choices. So today I want to help you understand what actually makes changes stick and why the answer is usually not try harder, it's build better conditions. So let's look at some popular myths that we see a lot. Number one is I need more willpower. If this were true, we wouldn't need support structure or community. In fact, willpower can be helpful, but it's not the main driver. Habits grow in environments and systems that make choices easier and the undesired choice harder. So coaching helps people to design those environments. Willpower can fluctuate while structured support can be consistent. Willpower is reactive, where coaching is proactive. It's about building systems in your life. Willpower is isolated, where coaching creates connection and consistent support. Myth number two is if I can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing. It's this all or nothing mentality that derails change faster than most people realize. The truth is that behavior change science shows that small, consistent steps are one of the most reliable ways to create lasting change Coaching invites that progress instead of perfection and treats every attempt as data collection, something to kind of look deeper at. It's not a verdict on your worth or ability. Myth number 3, once I'm motivated, then I'll start. Unfortunately, the brain is wired to work the other way around. Bad news, I know, but action comes first. Motivation tends to grow after we see ourselves succeed in at even some small way. So action will create the motivation, and we can start by doing the tiniest, most doable step that gives you that quick win. And that little quick win, no matter how small, will start to build confidence and energy and the motivation that can help you make that bigger step. Myth number 4, I should be able to do this alone. That kind of, I don't need anyone mentality, right? So many people quietly believe that needing help actually means that they're failing. But in truth, humans are wired for connection. I think we know that now more than ever. And accountability, encouragement, and community can dramatically increase the chance that a new habit will stick. And that's why a community like Whole Life Club works. That's why this community works. This time right now works. And that's why coaching works. So if you've held any of these myths, don't worry, you're not alone and you're not broken. You're just human. And coaching simply gives that human brain of ours the conditions it needs to thrive. So what actually makes the change stick? So there's a well-known framework in coaching and psychology called self-determination theory. And that is that people are more likely to change and stay changed when 3 basic needs are met. 1, they're in control. This is autonomy. I feel like I'm in charge of my choices. I'm not being forced or shamed or dragged into it. Number 2, confidence, competence. There's a belief that I can do this. The steps feel doable. That's why you can make it small if you need to. It doesn't matter how big or small that step is, it has to feel doable. And I have the tools and the skills and the resources that I need to do it. Connection, relatedness, this I don't feel alone in it. I feel supported, cared about, and understood. The people in my life want to see me succeed. When any of these 3 are missing, change becomes much, much harder. And sometimes people intellectually want change, but emotionally or logistically or practically, they might not be ready. There might be an actual readiness gap to be explored, to identify what's at play. Is it ambivalence? Are there competing commitments? Are there misaligned or unclear values? Maybe you've lived this. Maybe you've started eating a new plan and you got excited and you do great for a week, and then life gets stressful and you miss a day, and then it's a week, and then it's a season, and suddenly you're right back where you started. It's usually because one of those things we're missing. It's not because you're weak or you don't have enough of the motivation or willpower or whatever you want to label it. Maybe you didn't really choose the plan, so it never felt like yours. Maybe the steps were too big and your confidence crashed. Maybe you didn't have support or structure around accountability, so the first rough patch really knocked you off track. So intrinsic motivation is what grows when people feel ownership, aligned values, self-trust, self-efficacy. Extrinsic motivation fades quickly because it relies on pressure or reward, or in some cases even shame. So here at Food Revolution Network, we have formed a six-part like fundamental framework for making changes. And this is the foundation of our plant-based coaching certificate program. And so to do this, we have taken complex evidence-based best practices from the fields of coaching, psychology, and we've combined them with the wisdom and experience of our faculty, which includes health and wellness, psychology, leadership and performance coaching, et cetera, and distilled these shared principles into our 6 core fundamentals here. And our goal was to simplify the complex when it comes to creating real and lasting change. So I'm going to share this with you now so you get a sense of how and why these skills work. And I would love for you to as I'm speaking about them, go ahead and kind of scan how you've experienced these in your life, because I'm going to ask for a little engagement in the chat, right? Okay, so we're going to start with our first fundamental skill, deep listening. And we define this as listening with mindful presence, silencing that urge to fix, to solve, or to give advice. Some call it also holding space. And that's not easy to do, right? Because most of us have spent our whole lives being rewarded for having all the answers or for being an expert on this or that and being helpful and useful when we can help and offer solutions to someone. But in coaching, our power doesn't come from what we know. It actually comes from how deeply we listen. In fact, one of the hardest thing when you're learning to become a coach is to remember, like, we want to remove all power dynamic, right? So we want to see the person in front of us as completely, fully resourced and already whole. And when we really deeply listen, we replace our advice with something more powerful. Our uninterrupted client or person begins to hear themselves much more clearly. They start to connect their own dots. That's where the transformation begins. So in practice, it means slowing down, being really mindfully present, listening to what's being said, the precise words chosen, tone, body language, energy, what's not being said. It means using silence intentionally and creating space for that reflection and insight to emerge. So here's an example. A client says, I've been so tired lately, and I think it's because I'm not eating well. So the wrong thing to do in this scenario would be, well, junk food is everywhere. Have you tried to cut out sugar? That's always worked for me. And just like that, the momentum is gone, and that person can shut down because their concern really wasn't fully heard before advice was given. Instead, it might be better for a coach to say, to like lean in and respond with like, I hear you're noticing energy is low and you're linking it to your eating habits. Tell me more about how meals have been for you lately. And now that client has an opportunity to open up. They feel safe and understood. So deep listening is much more than a skill. It's an act of respect as well. It says, I trust you to find your own answers. I'm here to walk beside you as you do. So here's something I'd like you to consider and drop in the chat. Where in your own life, with friends, family, colleagues, patients, clients, do you find yourself wanting to interrupt, to be the expert, to give advice, or even cheerlead? Notice the pause. I'm listening. I see a lot of, oh, often. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's with my teenagers. Yes. Parenting is like the greatest example of this, right? All right. Awesome. So words are really powerful things, and beginning to notice these moments in everyday conversation is the wonderful first step towards transforming them. Because every time we resist the urge to fix or let another person hear their own thoughts reflected back with intention, we really create a very real connection and an increased sense of self-awareness. We are actually building autonomy, and we've had students go through PBCC really transform relationships with their families and their coworkers, etc., with just this one skill. All right, the next one is creating a safe space, very connected, obviously, to the first skill. But psychological safety is one of the strongest predictors of growth in any change relationship. It's the primary purpose and focus of the whole first session or first meeting that a coach or a client would have together. We need to build that container for safety so a client can flourish. And before a client can grow or another can grow, they have to feel safe enough to be very honest and vulnerable, to explore what's real, to say the thing they've never said out loud before without the fear of being judged or dismissed or fixed. Creating that kind of space is very intentional. It begins with how we show up, our tone, our energy, our body language, our consistency. We have to reinforce clear boundaries and communicate respect, not just through words, but through our presence. We also want to pay special attention to individual context. And there's a lot of training also around like cultural context, how a person's background, identity, lived experience would shape what safety means for them. You need to have a sense of what that person's social determinants for health truly are, right? So this builds a really strong foundation for your ongoing work. Because let's be honest, we're all human. There's always a moment when we say something that lands differently than we intended. And what matters is how we repair those moments with humility and presence and care. So, what this might look like in a scenario, okay? A client mentions fasting for religious reasons. And the coach responds, that doesn't sound very healthy. Maybe you should stop. Now, the client doesn't feel very seen or respected or heard, and there's no curiosity around practice, etc. They feel shut down. A safe example would be a client shares a tradition or family pattern around food that feels different from the coach's experience, and the coach responds, I really appreciate you sharing that. I'd love to understand more about what that means for you. Okay, so this doesn't mean protecting people from discomfort. It means helping someone feel supported within it. And when safety is present, vulnerability becomes possible, and that is where the growth begins. So, question for the audience. When you're holding space for someone, whether it's friend, family, colleague, client, what do you think signals safety to them in your presence? You can go ahead. Is it your calm tone, your steady eye contact, your willingness to stay with their emotions a little longer than might feel comfortable for you? Go ahead and share in the chat. No judgment, true listening. Yeah. Yep. Listening and not responding quickly. Not responding quickly. Yeah, it's tough to hold back when the client feels heard. Yes. Yeah, great. Reflective listening. Thank you. Yeah, I think we might have some of our PBCC students here today. All right. Our third fundamental skill is leveraging curiosity. And that's the bridge between listening and discovery. It's really what transforms conversations from judging or focusing on obstacles to understanding them and exploring possibilities. So it's this compass that can help guide a powerful conversation. When we bring genuine curiosity, it's really like the antidote to judgment. We communicate, I'm not here to judge or fix you, I'm here to explore with you. And in practice, this means asking thoughtful, open-ended questions that can reveal a person's true motivation, their real why. Then we can leverage some change talk. We can acknowledge any discord we're hearing. We can explore possibilities. We can invite them to explore the possibilities. It also helps people learn how to learn. It empowers the client to notice their strengths, their patterns, their resources, why something is the way it is, imagine what could be different or created instead. So through curiosity, people begin to see that answers are not out there, they're within. So here's an example scenario. I've really fallen off track recently with my healthy eating. You don't want to assume the problem, right? So that response would be like, you're probably just not planning your meals well enough. And that's really cutting off exploration, right? So used correctly, we could say something like, you've noticed you've fallen off track recently. Okay, what do you think you need most right now to get back into the rhythm? And now the client can explore their own solutions instead of feeling judged for slipping. So in coaching, curiosity is not about collecting info, it's about awakening awareness and helping clients hear themselves more clearly and discover their own creativity, strengths, and resources. So, question for the audience. What might shift in your relationships, be them professional or personal, if you replaced leaning into challenges and perceived obstacles with genuine curiosity? So if you got curious about something instead of just trying to solve it, go ahead and drop in the chat. What might shift in your relationships if you replaced leaning into challenges and problem solving with genuine curiosity? Shelley says less judgment again. Oh, yeah, so much love in that, right? Roberta, folks may be willing to be more open with me. Yes. Yes, you'd be a safe space. Less conflict. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Conflict mitigation. This is a superpower for that. Seems like you would broaden options to success. Absolutely. You don't shut down the ability to find a solution, and that person would find their own best solution, right? Partnership, trust, and yes, 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 yes. Great answers in the chat. Thank you. So our fourth fundamental is reflecting and reframing. This is really holding up the mirror and inviting a possibility. Okay, so it's if curiosity is about asking the question like, what's here, then reflection, reframing are about saying, here's what I hear, here's another way to see it. As coaches, we aim to shift perspectives while validating someone's experience because before a client can see something differently, they have to feel seen and heard. So reflection is how we hold up the mirror. We help a person hear their own thoughts and emotions in a new way. And then reframing invites the possibility to transform the challenge into an opportunity for insight and growth. It basically helps to promote what we call change talk in coaching. So it can be as simple as highlighting strength where a client sees failure or possibility where they see limitation. And in this process, we nurture optimism and self-compassion. So an example of this, client had set a goal to exercise 3 times this week, but only managed once. And they are reporting on their goal and they say, I feel really guilty for not doing better. So a trained coach would not say, oh, don't say that. You're doing great. Once is better than nothing. So by the coach trying to make that person feel better, you end up invalidating their experience. Instead, the proper use of reflecting and reframing in this situation is, okay, I hear you feel guilty and it sounds like you really care about your progress. What would self-compassion look like in this moment? So reflection and reframing are not about spin or false positivity. They're about revealing truth from a wider angle, helping clients stay connected to this long-term vision for well-being, even when things feel hard. So here's a question for the audience, something to consider. When you're supporting someone who's feeling discouraged, how might you acknowledge their struggle while also helping them see their strengths? What might you say? When you're supporting someone who's feeling discouraged, how can you acknowledge their struggle while helping them see their strengths? Encourage self-awareness, yes. Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah. Well, it's something to consider as the day walks on after this event when you encounter it, if you're trying to support someone who's feeling discouraged. Oh, Kathy, I hear you're struggling, but this is what you did well. All right. I think you have a sense of how these skills can really transform relationships, right? All right, next one. Last and not least. Oh no, there's actually 2 more, sorry. Our fifth is transforming vision into action. As coaches, we help move from dreaming to doing, from someday to now, even if they've failed a million times before. As coaches, we want to help them imagine the life that they want to live and then support them all the way to taking consistent, meaningful steps. So we'll start with visioning. We invite people to picture what thriving looks and feels like for them. We have them feel right into it. Nichole did a little bit of this earlier, like feeling that that success and that win. Then together we break that vision into small, achievable actions that match their pace, values, and readiness for change. So we'll have them identify first step and then a next and a next over time. To translate vision into goals and action, we help clients clarify their values so they can leverage their intrinsic motivation. People often say things like, I want to, walk my granddaughter down the aisle at her wedding day or something like that. Like, what is that really about when it comes to values? We check importance and confidence on a scale of 0 to 10. How important is this to you? How confident do you feel? And we use tools like brainstorming and smart goal setting to define clear next steps, anticipate barriers, and plan for accountability. SMART goals you've probably encountered before in other settings. It's creating specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. We could talk about that for another 20 minutes, but I'll just keep going. Here's an example. I want to feel energetic and be active with my grandkids. And the goal that they set for themselves was, I'll try to eat healthier. That's too vague of a goal. I mean, too vague of an action to reach that big goal about feeling energetic and being active with the grandkids. A SMART goal would be, I'll prepare one plant-based dinner on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. Just keep it very micro. Okay. So for the audience, another reflection to share in the chat. When you think about a goal that you've struggled to achieve, what made it hard? Was it lack of clarity, confidence, or support? Clarity, confidence, or support? Support. Oh, yes. Yep, not knowing how to reach it. Yep, I think that could probably fall under the confidence because you don't have the knowing. Clarity. Yep, confidence. Right. Being consistent is challenging. Yeah, no desire. Yeah. Yep, that's a very real one. Okay. Feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, overwhelmed. That might be taking on something too big or not feeling resourced, right? So all of these words would be explored, on a one-on-one conversation. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, last but not least is our sixth skill. Building confidence and motivation. So this is where we help people believe in their capacity for change, even when the progress feels small. We focus on fostering belief and igniting intrinsic motivation and celebrating strengths. People will start to transform not because they're pushed, but when they really start to believe, oh, here's what I have to do, and I can do this. So we can think about this again as strengthening self-efficacy, a client's confidence in their own ability to follow through. And every time we highlight a success, no matter how small, we reinforce that belief. So here is what this could sound like in real life. Here's an example. All right, this week was crazy. I only managed to cook one plant-based dinner this week. All right, here's what would undermine confidence and what not to do. I'm sorry to hear your week was so busy, but you really need to stick to your plan if you want results. You might have heard that from a doctor, who knows? Right? Here's what would be more useful. It sounds like you made a healthy change in the middle of a busy week. What helped you make that possible? You feel a very different energy, right, with where the focus goes? Great. So it's not really about praise. It's about helping a client see themselves succeeding, sometimes in ways they haven't noticed, and about cultivating a growth mindset where every small win is evidence of progress and potential, and there is curiosity around the possibility. It's very forward leaning. It's not really about going in history and wondering why, right? So let's take another moment to reflect and share in the chat. Think of a time when someone believed in you before. Think of a time when someone believed in you, maybe before you fully believed in yourself. How did that affect your motivation? I can hear everybody scanning their memories. Yes. Someone who believed in you before you fully believed in yourself. How did that affect your motivation? Yeah. So helpful. Gave confidence. Thank you, Frederick. Oh, it didn't. Okay, Randy said it didn't. No, Zara said it didn't affect their motivation at all. All right. All right. Didn't help. Okay. I was willing to take risks. All right. Oh, Bonita shared something from a coaching program. Um, she felt that her coach would build confidence by reminding her that she's showing up again. Yeah, wonderful. So as we wrap, I just want to leave you with this thought. Often change doesn't fail because people are weak. It fails because the environment isn't designed to support them. So when the environment supports growth, willpower becomes less necessary. And that's why in coaching and in communities like Whole Life Club, we really focus on helping people learn how to shape their systems and their relationships and their conditions and not just rely on effort, right? Because you've seen why small wins matter so much. And small, doable steps build confidence, and confidence builds momentum, and momentum carries people forward when motivation dips because motivation will always dip. And change doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in relationship and in community, in spaces where people can share values and goals, where they feel safe enough to be honest and supported enough to keep going. And that's what coaching and like valued communities like Whole Life Club can make possible. It's not about pressure or perfection, it's just steady progress with the support of others in the direction of better health and wellness. And that's how habits last, and that's how change happens. And ultimately, that change can become a way of life.
I love it. There were a lot of good quotes in there. I was like, oh, I want to put this, I want to tell everyone this. That's so good, Tracy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's how change can become a way of life. I love it. And I love the focus on momentum too, because it's so true, right? When you've got momentum, it's so easy to keep going, right? The opposite of being stuck in a swamp.
Absolutely. Yeah, the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
slide with the guy climbing up the mountain, I was like, I wish I had another one of someone trying to run in cement or quicksand. It's that feeling like you have to get
yeah.
past it.
Yeah. Now I want to put out in a quick word on behalf of hope. A lot of people are like, oh, hope, what? Hope isn't action. Hope isn't real. It's just a spectator sport. Well, here's the thing. You don't get change without hope. Hope is like seeing that there's a door and realizing you could walk through it. I'll tell you what, you're not going to open that door and walk through it if you don't first have hope that it's possible. So really, I think a lot of people talk about false hope. And I think, well, what's the danger of false pessimism? Let's compare those two for a second, right? Now, of course, hope as a naive spectator sport's never going to get you anywhere unless you also realize that it's only the first step, right? It is a first step, though. So let's allow ourselves to have hope about the things that matter, grounded in reality, and then let's do something about it. And as we're learning today, let's do something that builds momentum and that sticks and that grows and that deepens, and let's create those positive reinforcements in our lives. Okay, well, we've had a number of questions coming in that we want to address. Susan said, so many questions I have are being answered without me even having to ask them. Thank you. I love that, Susan. Thank you so much. Claudine said, how do you recommend handling situations where the food offered does not align with this lifestyle? For example, at work, I've been invited to a special luncheon to celebrate a milestone, and I want to bring my own lunch, LOL.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one and a common one for those of us trying to do a whole food plant-based way of life. We're definitely in a what Ocean will say is a toxic food culture. So yeah, again, if we were working together, I already heard in your question, your own answer of bringing your own food was like something that you kind of felt was maybe a possibility for you. And I would explore that more with you. What does that look like? What are your feelings and thoughts around that? Um, are there challenges or reasons why that wouldn't be realistic? So I think exploring that as again, you have your own best insight there.
Yeah, and just to say, it is totally okay to choose to honor yourself.
Hmm.
I think bringing your own dish is totally okay. And if people feel uncomfortable, then but give them a heads up, by the way. If they're trying to
Hmm.
honor you, it's no honor to not tell them and then not eat
Yeah.
what they make you, right? If you're going to somebody's house for dinner, let them know what to make you or tell them you don't want to be a bother and you can bring your own food because you don't want to let food differences get in the way of connection, right? That's the big thing. It's disarming if instead of saying I eat differently and you should too, it's more like I eat differently. I don't want that to get in the way, so I'm happy to bring something if that's easier. You could just say that and then let them respond how they do. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, "Oh no, no, no! Tell me more so I can make it work for you." If it's a big group they're accommodating, they may not be able to accommodate every individual, and then take care of yourself. You can frame it as wanting to feel your best, not as judgment about anybody else.
Hmm.
Some people also eat quietly before or after an event and then, nibble on the things that work for them. There's different approaches you can take, but stay kind, stay clear, stay connected to your values, which include humans and respect for other people and their sovereignty, or so I imagine.
Yeah. Ocean, can I just add one thing to that?
Yeah.
Because this happened to me at New Year's Eve, actually. A group of friends, we reserved a table and it had these, meals included. And my friend and I wanted to do whole food plant-based meals. And my friend is actually gluten-free as well. So we basically we contacted them. We contacted them and say, these would be our preferences. If it's possible, what can you do? And like that it was just opened up so many things. Like now they actually have the item that they created for us on their regular menu. So I thought that was really neat.
Cool. That is just great. Yeah, that's how change happens sometimes. Just human beings say what they want or need, and suddenly the world adjusts, right? And then suddenly everybody else who goes into that venue has a new experience too. Um, Denise, I'll answer this one. She said, I'm 73, I have osteopenia. I drink a cup of soy milk a day and eat Greek yogurt, a cup at night. I was recommended to get a calcium supplement. Can you recommend the best type to get? So Denise, thank you for raising this. And it sounds like you're already focusing on protein, which is one piece of the mix. And it's good to get plenty of protein when you're dealing with osteopenia. Now, the goal here really is to support bone density. And you want to do that in a way that your body can actually use. So dairy foods like yogurt and fortified soy milk do contribute calcium, but it's common for a lot of adults to still fall a little short of the amount that research suggests is ideal. You probably want to be getting about 1,200 milligrams a day. A lot of plant-based eaters might be getting more like 800 milligrams a day of calcium. What we find is that a good calcium supplement can help fill that gap, and the form matters. So calcium citrate malate is probably the most bioavailable form. That means your body can absorb it efficiently, especially when you take it with meals. In an ideal world, you take it sprinkled onto some food rather than as a supplement, and you take it dabbled through the day a couple times a day, maybe like 200 milligrams at a time, a couple times a day. Now, you may want to also pair calcium if you're taking calcium supplements with vitamin D3 and vitamin K2, because these together can help your body to absorb the calcium and to get it into your bones instead of into your arteries. So you do not want calcium in your arteries, you want it in your bones. So D3 and K2 seem to be very helpful with this. You also may want to get some supplemental magnesium, zinc, and boron. These are all nutrients that can be beneficial for bone health and strength, structural integrity. And they work together in synergy, complementing calcium and protein. If you're considering a supplement, look for one that combines these nutrients rather than just calcium on its own, and take it in smaller doses with food, again, so you can maximize absorption. I also think this is a fitting time to announce that Food Revolution Network has been so concerned about bone health issues that we've decided, and we just couldn't find the right product on the market. So we're actually creating a new formula with our friends at Complement that brings all of this together in one plant-based powder you can sprinkle onto meals or into smoothies. And it's designed with strong bones and confident mobility in mind. So stay tuned. We will be announcing it later in the year. And of course, as always, check with a qualified healthcare professional before starting a new supplement, especially if you're on medication or have other medical conditions. All right, friends, it looks like it is time for us to move now. Oh, let's see. One more for Tracy. Tracy has a great calming effect and offers such wisdom in a relaxed way. Thank you so much, said Mary. I so agree, Mary. Wonderful. Thank you. And then we had a question, will the Q&A be available in the replay? They're valuable and helpful too. I don't know that the actual question and answer box, if that's what you're referring to from Zoom, I don't think there's a way to do that. If there is, we'll make it available. But if not, you may want to copy and paste if you're seeing some answers you like, and make sure you capture those. Because I know, for those who don't know, I think we've answered 72 questions in the Q&A box on Zoom, for those of you who are with us on Zoom, as we have been going through today. Let's see, we had a comment from Lori who said, for those not in Whole Life Club, it is well worth joining. Thank you so much, Lori. And Ray Jean said, I found Whole Life Club offers so much information. It really is worth it. Thank you, Ray Jean. Thank you so much. Tracy, thank you for joining us today. And now I want to take some time with everybody to tell you more about some next steps you may want to take with us. And particularly, we're going to talk a little bit about Whole Life Club. So hopefully right now you're understanding why environment matters more than willpower, and why small wins build confidence, and why community can create accountability. You've learned what to eat and the lifestyle practices that can change your life from Nichole and Brenda. You've learned why behavior change can require support from Tracy. Now, let me show you one pathway for making all of this real in your life. Because everything Tracy just taught you about creating the right environment, about building confidence through small wins, about community support, that's exactly what Whole Life Club was designed to provide. And you know, a lot of times people are asking me, Ocean, what helps people stick to their plan when it comes to healthy eating? And I want to say it is such an important question, because most people aren't struggling from lack of intention. We all want to feel better. We all want to have more energy and live in alignment with our values. Pretty much everyone wants to eat more vegetables. What gets in the way is usually the environment around us, the systems and the support we have or don't have, our habits, our cravings, and the little voice in our head that says, I can't do this. Over the years working with hundreds of thousands of people, I've seen three things that consistently help folks not just start a healthy path, but stay on it. So the three keys here are, number one, make it simple. When you're not overwhelmed, when you know what to cook, when the steps are really clear and doable, everything gets so much easier. Simplicity clears the clutter so you can actually follow the path. The second key is to make it joyful. Healthy eating should not feel like deprivation. It should feel like coming home to food that loves you back. When your meals are colorful and delicious and deeply satisfying, you're not forcing yourself. You're not depriving yourself. You're nourishing yourself. Joy can light the way. Healthy food can become an expression of love. And the third key is to make it supported. None of us are meant to do this alone. We are profoundly social creatures. We thrive when we've got people in our corner who remind us what's possible, who share encouragement and help us stay connected to our big why. Support turns intentions into habits, and habits into lifestyle. And that, my friends, is why we created Whole Life Club, to bring all of these keys together. to give you simple recipes that work in real life, to bring more joy and inspiration into your kitchen and into your healthy lifestyle choices, and to surround you with a community that really has your back. Many of our 8,000 members are here with us today. If you're already part of Whole Life Club, feel free to share now in the chat on Zoom or in the comment section if you're on the broadcast page. What does Whole Life Club mean to you? What's changed in you since joining? And what do you value most about it? Feel free to just go ahead and share any of those comments right now. If you're part of Whole Life Club and you are so moved, we'd love to hear from you, and other folks can see what you post. And I want to say that for everybody watching right now, for those of you who haven't yet joined, I want to tell you a bit more about Whole Life Club and what it is. So we're going to pull up some slides now, but I will say Bonita said trustworthy advice. Thank you. Thank you, Bonita. So now we'll pull up some slides, and I want to just kind of walk you through it a little bit. So if you want to make the most of everything we've learned and you want to implement and sustain and optimize a healthy lifestyle, I really believe that Whole Life Club could be one of the biggest, most powerful steps you take from today. So now look at this number, $1.1 trillion. That's what we spend every single year in the United States treating chronic diet-related diseases that are largely preventable. That, by the way, is more than the gross domestic product of most nations, and it is draining our economy and our healthcare system and our personal savings. But it's not just about money, is it? It's about the 41 million people who will die prematurely this year from chronic diseases around the world. Prematurely dying. 7 of the top 10 causes of death globally are directly related to diet. And behind every statistic is a person, a family, and a story. And our food choices, they are shaping our planet in profound ways. 83% of the world's agricultural land is used for livestock to produce just 18% of our calories. If the whole world just theoretically went vegan tomorrow, not to say that's going to happen, but just hang in there with me for a second, we'd free up land equivalent to the entire landmass of the United States, China, European Union, and Australia combined. 1 pound of beef costs us 1,800 gallons of water. That's as much as you'd use in 115 days of showers. Our consumption of industrialized meat is draining our aquifers, it's eroding our topsoil, it's fueling biodiversity loss and species extinction, it's driving climate change, and it's causing chronic inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, dementia, and type 2 diabetes. But here's what I want you to hear. Millions of lives can be improved, trillions of dollars can be saved, and we can have a healthier future for all life just by changing the food on our plate. This isn't just a theoretical possibility, it is a tangible reality for millions of people, and you can make it part of your life today, and if it already is, you can make it even healthier and more vibrant. Now here's the thing, change can be hard. Everybody knows they need to eat more vegetables and have less stress and get more sleep. The problem isn't just knowing what we want to do, it's actually doing what we know. And that's what Whole Life Club's all about. So your all-in-one membership can help you implement and sustain and optimize your healthy lifestyle. And I believe it could be a powerful step for you today if you want to implement and stick with and optimize all that you've been learning. So let me show you a little bit of what's in the club. So when you join, you get direct access to the world's leading plant-based doctors, nutritionists, and researchers. Look at these faces, folks like Dr. Columbus Batiste, Dr. Ronnie Bannock, Chris Carr, Dr. Alan Desmond, Brenda Davis, who you heard from today, Dr. Neetu Bajekal, Rich Roll, Dr. Daphne Bascom, Dr. Michael Greger. These are some of our past monthly Action Hour interviews that you can watch anytime you like. And looking forward, we will continue to have new and often live conversations where you can ask your questions and get real answers. You know, the experts who wrote the studies we've been referencing today, a lot of them teach in Whole Life Club. You also get access to more than 1,500 delicious whole food plant-based recipes that work. Every single one is searchable by ingredient, prep time, and dietary preference. Our culinary team created these recipes specifically for our community. So you never have to stare at your fridge and wonder, what do I make? Instead, you and your family can be excited about your next meal. There's also live events. So every week you get more of these. There's cooking demonstrations with Rosie and our team, Q&A coaching calls, community connection sessions with expert facilitators. You never have to go alone in figuring this out. And you also get weekly action of the week videos that give you one clear, doable step to move forward. They're 5 minutes or less, usually from myself or Nichole. No overwhelm, just steady progress. And then you get community, which really is kind of the heart of everything. A private, ad-free space, no Facebook drama, no algorithms. Thousands of members just like you, moderated by our team of registered dietitians and certified coaches and nutrition experts. These are people who understand what you're going through, who can celebrate your wins, who can help you troubleshoot when things get hard. And you also get access to a brand new feature we just launched called Wellness Buddy, which is an AI chatbot trained exclusively on Food Revolution Network's content. It's like having a registered dietitian in your pocket 24 hours a day. And of course, if you're not into AI, no worries. You can just ignore it. No tracking is happening without your permission, but it's a resource for those who want it. And all this stuff put together, it works. Let me tell you about two people whose stories move me deeply. So first, let me tell you about Diane M. So when Diane decided to join Whole Life Club, there's a picture of her up right now. When she decided to join the club, she was on a journey to reverse her type 2 diabetes and to lose weight that just wasn't coming off. She had switched to a mostly low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet, and after watching Food Revolution Network summits for years, she wanted to be part of a community of like-minded individuals, and she wanted to learn more to support her journey. So she joined. Since September of 2023, Diane has lost over 120 pounds. Her A1C has dropped from 10.4 to 4.5. Her triglycerides are now in a normal range. Her LDL cholesterol has dropped tremendously, and her HDL cholesterol is in a healthy range, and it's getting higher. That's the good kind of cholesterol. She says she feels so much better with more energy, more motivation, and a healthier mindset. And she also told us, thank you to WLC and all its members. Diane tells us that with Whole Life Club, she was hoping to get support and information to help her reach a fully low-fat and whole food plant-based diet. She's gotten that and a lot more. She noticed a positive shift when she shared with other members during a community call just how far she'd come and how much she'd learned about clean eating. She knows that every step she takes with all this support is helping her to keep going and keep deepening. And she said she values Whole Life Club because it reassures her that she's going in the right direction, that she'll be fine with protein if she eats a wide variety of foods, and that she wants to keep going, continuing her home garden, learning storage techniques, enjoying the connectedness to nature she's always felt, and learning how to be a healthier version of herself. She tells us that since becoming a member, that the most significant change is that she's enjoying and appreciating her garden so much and her sense of connectedness with nature. And she also loves how positive everyone is, the non-judgmental way the leaders include and teach everyone, no matter what phase they're in, and all the recipes and tips that make this way of living easier. Now, you know what moves me the most about Diane's story? It's not just the 120 pounds or the A1C drop, though those numbers are remarkable and have a massive impact. It's that moment she described, sharing her journey on a community call, realizing how far she had come. That's when everything shifted for her, because sometimes when you share something like that with other people, it makes it real. It grounds it, it lands it, and it gives you more traction to keep going. There are so many people who lose a bunch of weight and then they fall off the wagon and they gain it right back again. But with this kind of support, that doesn't have to be her fate. She came for information. She stayed and she transformed because she wasn't alone anymore. Because someone was there to reassure her that she was going in the right direction. Because she had people who understood. That's what community can do. It takes what you know and helps you actually live it. Now, let me tell you a bit about Barbara. Barbara first heard about Whole Life Club when we originally launched back in 2018. She says that she knew it was for her. She joined immediately, and she's been a member ever since then. At that time, in 2018, Barbara said that food-wise, she felt pretty isolated. With Whole Life Club, she was hoping to connect with people who were also committed to a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. So she developed the habit of watching every action hour and joining in all of our community conversations. And she says that helped her to become totally whole foods plant-based. Since joining, Barbara says everything in her lifestyle has changed for the better. She planned her grocery shopping and meals, so she always had fresh organic food. She found great recipes on the WLC site. She developed an exercise routine, and she built a good sleep pattern. Sometime after she joined, Barbara was diagnosed with breast cancer. She says that during that time, she strengthened her whole food plant-based diet even more. She had a mastectomy without chemo or radiation, and a later PET scan showed no cancer anywhere else in her body. She was so grateful for her Whole Life Club connection during that time. She says she values Whole Life Club because she knows that she's getting clear, scientifically proven information rather than hype. And she also had a community to support her through that vulnerable time. Barbara's story gets me right here. She joined in 2018 feeling isolated, but she found her people. She changed her eating and her exercise and her sleep, and then cancer came. And in that moment, in one of the hardest moments of her life, she didn't have to face it alone. She had community. She had clear and science-backed information she could trust. She had people who had her back. She strengthened her diet even more at a time when some people would falter, would fear that it wasn't working. She got through treatment, and today she is cancer-free. Now, I can't promise Whole Life Club will prevent or cure cancer, but I can tell you this. Having support, having community, having people who believe in you when things get hard, that can change everything. Now, my friends, these are not unusual stories. At FRN, we hear stories like this almost every day. People who were trying to do it alone for years, who finally found their community. People who were trying to make healthy eating sticky, in the good sense, as in it sticks, not like you're eating sticky food. And they finally found it in Whole Life Club. People who are no longer feeling isolated, alone, or lost. People who are no longer feeling confused. People who are no longer plagued with diseases and symptoms they've been struggling with sometimes for decades. So if you're ready to stop doing this alone, if you're ready to have simple recipes and joyful meals and supportive community, if you're ready to make 2026 the year your healthy habits finally stick, you can start today for just $1 for a full 14-day trial. That's 14 days where you get complete access to everything, the more than 80 expert action hours in our library, more than 1,500 plant-powered recipes, our private supportive community, wellness buddy, all the live events, everything for just $1. After your 14-day trial, if you love it, and I'm pretty sure that you will, your membership continues for just $197 per year, which, by the way, is 60% off the regular price, less than $4 a week. Now, here's what I want you to know. You can cancel anytime during your trial. No charge, no questions asked, no hard feelings. If you do continue, you're protected by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Even your $1 investment is guaranteed, as well as your annual dues for another 60 days after any payment is made. So if Whole Life Club doesn't meet your expectations for any reason, just email us and we'll refund every penny you've spent in the prior 2 months. We do this because we are so confident that you're going to love it. So we don't want there to be any risk for you. And we know there is so much to gain. So the link is, we can share it in the chat, and it's frn.co/whole. It's also on the broadcast page. But again, if for some reason you're watching this maybe on YouTube and you can't see the link, it's FRN for Food Revolution Network .co/whole. I'm going to pause for just a moment to let all that sink in. And some of you are already going ahead and enrolling, which is fabulous. And now I want to go ahead and respond to a few of the questions and comments. I see Bonita wrote trustworthy advice, and I love the FRN recipe bank. I'm always quickly finding ones based on my main ingredients, then adjusting based on what's on hand. Moni said, starting my 3rd year as part of Whole Life Club. Like-minded people, the weekly live Zoom calls help build community. Jenny said the confusion with what to eat is simplified in the recipe section, plus they are easy to make and delicious. Gina said Whole Life Club is my respite. It's a great resource for information and recipes, but more than that, it is a safe place to go for a break from daily stressors and find like-minded people and encouragement, motivation, and inspiration. So if you're deciding, let me tell you about one more opportunity now, friends, that I want to make sure you know about. Some of you are sitting here thinking, I don't just want to transform my life. I want to help other people transform their lives. Maybe you're a health professional who wants to be more effective with your clients. Maybe you're passionate about plant-based living and want to turn that into meaningful work. Maybe you have experienced your own transformation and you want to pay it forward. If that's you, I want to tell you about our plant-based coaching certificate, which is another resource that many of you may be inspired about. So PBCC, as we call it, is Food Revolution Network's 6-month evidence-based training program in the science and the practice of behavior change. It's designed for compassionate change makers who want to master not just their own wellness journey, but who want to learn how to guide others through theirs. You'll learn from the same experts you met today, Brenda Davis, Nichole Dandrea-Russert, and Tracy Garrigan, plus Dr. Michael Clapper, Howard Jacobson, and other leading authorities in plant-based nutrition and in behavior change. And you'll be mentored every step of the way through real-world coaching practice. Now, Tracy, you just popped back up on the screen here. You founded and direct this program. So what would you say to somebody who's considering it?
Well, I would say this, whether or not you ever want to become a coach, the principles that we teach in PBCC can apply to every single one of us in everyday life. Because real change, the kind that lasts, comes from creating the right environment and building confidence over time and finding a supportive community. So that's why we always say PBCC and Whole Life Club go hand in hand so well. We even gift Whole Life Club to all of our PBCC students for a lifetime membership. So they have an active presence in the club and can continue learning and growing with a community. Whole Life Club gives you the structure and support to practice these habits in your own life week after week, meal after meal, while PBCC teaches you how to guide other people to do the same. So, in short, Whole Life Club helps you live the change, PBCC helps you lead the change. And our coaches learn to embody the what, the why, the how of change. So if you're already a part of Whole Life Club, PBCC may be your next natural step or a way to deepen your own growth in the science of it all, while also multiplying your impact and bringing this way of life to others who might be served by it.
Beautifully said, Tracy. Thank you. So friends, here's what I want you to know. Our next plant-based coaching certificate cohort, the only one in 2026, begins on Monday, January 26th. And registration is actually closing down on January 20th. On that day, we're hosting a final live Q&A webinar where you can preview the entire program and meet the faculty and ask questions to see if it's a right fit for your path. The registration link for that webinar will be added to the chat here by folks on our team, and it should also be on the broadcast page. And you can also go ahead and learn more about the plant-based coaching certificate or enroll at certificate.foodrevolution.org. Again, that's certificate.foodrevolution.org. So just to reiterate what Tracy said, just to put all this in context, Whole Life Club helps you live the change. Plant-based coaching certificate helps you lead the change. And they are really beautifully synchronized with each other. So whether you're joining Whole Life Club today to transform your own life, or you're considering plant-based coaching certificate to multiply your impact in the lives of others, or you're doing both, or you're doing neither, the important thing is to take action while your motivation is strong. So if you haven't clicked the link yet for your $1 WLC trial, now is the time. It's in the chat and on the broadcast page. And you've got so much to gain. All right, well, we've just got a couple minutes left in our time together, so let's take a few more lightning questions before we close. Let's see, you can go ahead and type questions into the Q&A box on Zoom or in the comment section on the broadcast page. Adrian said, I've been plant-based for over 10 years, and in the beginning, isolation was part of the journey. This is my first year with WLC, and I'll be part of the PBCC as well. It feels so good and inspiring to connect with a whole community of like-minded people. Adrian, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being a part of our community. We are so, so grateful. There's an old saying, if you want to know what kind of person you're going to be in 5 years, look who you're spending time with today. Because we tend to become more like the people around us. And this is a good reason not to erase your friends, but to get friends and build communities that nourish you. So leaning into that is so powerfully important. And In the plant-based coaching certificate, I've got to say, it's like a magnet for incredible, courageous, committed humans. So Adrian, thank you for being a part of it. Dottie said, I have stage 4 kidney disease and have limitations because of 2 heart attacks. I found that what is good for my heart is detrimental to the kidneys. Too much protein is also not good for me. What would you recommend when I can't have things like kale and spinach and oranges and tomatoes and bananas? Well, Dottie, thank you for asking. I'm so sorry you're struggling with these challenges. We don't have time to go into all of this in depth, but there are answers. I think if you go to foodrevolution.org and type kidneys in there, you can find our article on kidneys and kidney health, which I hope will be helpful to you. It sounds like this is going to be critical for you. I want you to know there is hope. There are many people that have gotten profound benefit in relation to kidney disease from eating the right foods and practicing healthy lifestyle. And I don't think it's completely contradictory with what's good for your heart, but you do have to manage things with care. And of course, if you can't eat certain things, just focus on the things that you can eat and make the most of them and keep leaning into the healthy choices at every opportunity. Jackie said, but other people do not necessarily respect my values. You know, Jackie, I get that. And I guess the thing I would say is keep living your values as best you can, including, I hope, your respect for their values, right? You can't make people respect you, but you can respect them. And that's kind of the golden rule, right? And when we practice that, you know, it may not change them, but at least we're in our own integrity. And then part of your integrity too is probably living by your values, even if people aren't respecting them, you know, with kindness, with respect for them, and also with respect for you. Let's see. Susan said, my renewal date for Whole Life Club is coming up February 11th. I'm wondering if the renewal rate will be the one I signed up with last year, or will it be more? The good thing with Whole Life Club is that when you are enrolled, even if we raise the rates, as we have done at times in the past, you will be locked in for your original rate. So for folks who enroll today with the $1 trial, your rate will not go up even if we raise rates in the future. You'll be locked in after your trial period at $197 per year. Susan, if you happened to enroll for a lower rate, then that's yours. Congratulations, you're grandfathered in, so to speak. Kathy said, should low-fat dairy be eliminated? Well, Kathy, it depends on lots of factors, but in general, there are significant problems with dairy products, from the hormones in there, their impact on IGF-1 levels in the human body. So in general, we're not big fans. Also, the impact on the cows and the environment. But absolutely, low-fat dairy is by most health experts considered healthier than whole-fat dairy. That itself is controversial in general. I'm a big fan of plant milks, especially, as we've said today, soy products. Mary asked, when are the weekly live calls with WLC? We have 5 events each month, 1 per week. I'm seeing, I think this was one of our team members also sharing a response. We have 5 events each month, 1 per week on a rotating schedule and times, so as many members as possible can join live, and we record events for later viewing. So yeah, there's your answer, Mary. All right, friends, we are nearing the end of our time today. Y'all get some kind of an award for making it to the end. And as we come to a close, let me say this. From Nichole, you learned so much about how to eat for energy and joy. From Brenda, you learned about longevity and whole body resilience. We also learned a lot about nutrition. And from Tracy, you learned about the science of creating real and lasting change. Through it all, we have seen that small and intentional habits, even something as simple as pausing to breathe, can do that right now if you want, or stretch, can have a lasting impact on how you feel. Now the next step is yours. It's time to put it all into action. You know, my friends, apathy is the thief of destiny. In a toxic food culture, the status quo is not an option. You deserve better. We're here to help you put bold, positive change into action. So I hope you've learned a lot today. And I hope to see many of you in Whole Life Club, where learning becomes living, where science meets practice, and where healthy habits become second nature. I hope to see some of you in the plant-based coaching certificate if you want to be a leader in this movement. And remember, we're here with you in Food Revolution Network every step of the way. So if you're on our email list, keep opening those emails, keep clicking those links, keep visiting our website with hundreds and hundreds of articles on critical food and health topics. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to find your way all alone. We're here to support you, to stand with you, and hopefully to welcome you to the next step. Friends, you have shown up with heart today. That matters. My dad used to say that every time we eat, we're voting. We're voting for the world we want to live in, for the health we want to have, and for the future we want to create. So today, I hope you have learned some things that can help you make that vote a more conscious and intentional one. I hope you've learned why community matters and how to make change stick. Now it's time to vote with your fork, to vote with your habits, and maybe to vote with your participation in this community. Here's to a 2026 that is filled with energy and joy and thriving health for you and for everyone that you love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about your health and about our planet. Thank you for being a part of this incredible community and the food revolution. We wish you a blessed and beautiful, nourishing day. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hope to see you in Whole Life Club. Hope to see you in the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate and in many other events and experiences in the future. Love to all of you. Bless you. Goodbye for now.